Chapter 1076. The sky had already darkened, but the carriage was still on the road. Although Princess Yu Yan was sitting in the carriage, she looked exhausted. She pulled the curtains and looked outside with an ugly expression on her face. Go and ask him why he hasn't stopped to rest. If we go any further, we will be in the wilderness again. Princess Yu Yan said angrily. Princess. The palace maid looked on timidly. She really did not dare to look for Prince Chen. What are you afraid of? Will he really kill you? No matter what, you are still my woman. Seeing the palace maid's useless look, Princess Yu Yan said angrily. She had always been pampered and had never suffered like this. Previously, when Chu Luchen was walking slowly, she still had the heart to show her face in front of Chu Luchen. At that time, although Chu Luchen did not pay attention to her, at least he looked friendly. However, since that incident, this Prince Chen seemed to have removed the veil of tenderness. Princess, princess. The palace maid was so scared that she started crying. She knelt down in front of Princess Yu Yan in the carriage. Princess, I don't dare. You useless lowly girl. Since you are useless, what use do I have for you? Princess Yu Yan was furious. She stretched out her hand and gave the palace maid a hard slap, venting all her anger on the palace maid. The palace maid cried out in pain and fell into the carriage. There was a clear palm print on her face. Princess Yu Yan, what's the matter? A cold voice suddenly came from outside the carriage, piercing one's heart like ice. Nothing, I just want to ask when Prince Chen can rest. Princess Yu Yan's hand froze, then slowly retracted it. She touched her temple and said softly. Outside the carriage, the guard said coldly, Prince Chen has ordered that Princess Yu Yan can rest in the carriage in another 2 hours. How is Prince Chen? Princess Yu Yan adjusted her expression, lifted the curtain, and asked with a face full of concern. Thank you for your concern, princess. The guard said coldly, then turned around and rode away. Princess Yu Yan dropped the curtain in her hand heavily, her face livid with anger. Prince Chen really did not take her seriously. One day, she would make Chu Luchen kneel under her skirt and beg for her to look back on him. Princess. The palace maid said timidly. Rise. Princess Yu Yan said coldly and secretly gritted her teeth. Her other palace maid was killed by Chu Luchen. That night, she brought a palace maid with her to deliver a bowl of soup to Chu Luchen, but she was killed by Chu Luchen with a sword. Even now, it was still a nightmare for Princess Yu Yan. The people around him were all trembling with fear. No one dared to be presumptuous in front of Chu Luchen. Even if they wanted to send someone to inquire about it, they did not dare to do so. Princess Yu Yan had to admit that her looks were outstanding. When she was in Su country, there were so many men surrounding her skirt, but this Prince Chen actually did not have the slightest bit of pity for her. She really could not believe it. It must be that Chu Luchen was blind and didn't see her good side. When he saw her good side in the future, she would definitely let him know the consequences of offending her. While Princess Yu Yan was secretly venting her anger, the guard had already spurred his horse forward and came to the front of Chu Liuchen's carriage to report, Your Highness, everything is fine. I have already passed the message over. Is there anyone who objects? Chu Liuchen's lazy voice came from the carriage. The 2 princesses and the 2 lords feel that Your Highness's idea is very good. We should indeed return to the capital as soon as possible. The imperial bodyguard coldly replied to this unrealistic answer. As for the beating and scolding of Princess Yu Yan in the carriage and the sound of Commandery Prince Qing smashing the cup, they involuntarily took it as approval. Princess Yu Tao and Ning Yuan Tian also had no objection. What else could they have? If anyone disagrees, report it to me. In the carriage, Chu Luchen leaned on the soft couch and said gently. Yes, Your Highness. The guard's heart twitched. He felt that it was better not to trouble the prince with such a small matter. Master, can we reach the capital in such a hurry? Xiao Xuanzi looked out of the window through the screen window. It was getting late. In a while, he had to light the lamp and hurry on his journey. But even so, it was impossible for him to return to the capital city on the Empress Dowager's birthday. Even if they kept rushing, they wouldn't make it in time. "I'll leave first," Chu Luqin said lightly. Xiao Xuanzi's face changed. He sat up straight and said, "Your Highness, your body, this king's body is more or less recovered now. With proper treatment, nothing will happen." Chu Luqin chuckled, with a kind of extreme gentleness but coldness that was like an awl that broke the ice. "Since both of you want to, this prince can't rush back, but this prince has to rush back to congratulate Imperial Grandmother on her birthday. Your Highness, who wants to stop you from entering the capital?" Xiao Xuanzi swallowed his saliva and asked cautiously. What he said just now was also a subconscious question. After asking, Xiao Xuanzi remembered that the prince's body was actually not as weak as it seemed. The poison in his body had been removed, and he was now in the stage of recuperation. The previous weakness was really weak, and the current weakness was just the surface. Although the prince had a weak body since he was young, he had always practiced martial arts. Now that the poison had been removed, he was much healthier than the average person. However, he was still worried. After many years of habit, he always felt that the prince's health was more important. "It doesn't matter who did it. I have to let them see me appear at Imperial Grandmother's birthday party." Chu Luqin chuckled. "Your Highness, I'm really worried about you entering the capital alone. I want to follow you to the capital," Xiao Xuanzi said. "You stay here and sit in this carriage for me." Chu Luqin shook his head and said indifferently. The look on his face looked gentle, but there was some inexplicable strangeness and coldness in it. With such a large group of people, it was indeed too late to rush to the capital, but he didn't need to take them with him. He could take a few horses directly back to the capital. As for here, with Xiao Xuanzi here, no one could really open the carriage to see him inside. This Princess Yuyan had been coming to him before, but now she neither had the energy nor the courage to do so. This was very good. After leaving the capital for so long, he had to go back as soon as possible. "Your Highness, what if Princess Yuyan still sends people to spy on us?" Xiao Xuanzi asked. Other people would not take the initiative to come to him, except for this self-righteous Princess Yuyan, who always looked for opportunities to come to him. After killing her, a palace maid, these days she quieted down a little, but there was no guarantee that she would not come again. "If she still sends people to come here, just kill them directly," Chu Luqin said coldly, and his tone was so gentle as if he was not talking about killing people, but some romantic things. "Yes, I understand," Xiao Xuanzi said with a smile. Follow me after a long time, how could he not understand his master's mind? He didn't care about the appearance of this Princess Yuyan at all. His only real gentleness was given to the princess. In his eyes, other women were no different from men and women at all. They were just human beings. They were classified as useful or useless. If this Princess Yuyan came to him again, he would directly slap her in the face. Her face would hurt, so she did not dare to come forward again. "In a few days, I will directly return to the capital and find someone to pretend to be me. You go to the capital in a hurry. As long as Qin Huayong does not suspect anything, it will be fine. As for Chu Qing, it seems that he is sensible and will not trouble me." Chu Luqin snorted. Since the matter about Princess Yuyan, Chu Qing had been much quieter in the past few days. "Your Highness, do we still need to intercept the news sent by Commandery Prince Qing to the capital?" Xiao Xuanzi asked in a low voice. Chu Qing had repeatedly sent news to the capital, but they were all intercepted by his master. The matter about Princess Yuyan was an accident, and Commandery Prince Qing seemed to be anxious. He had not received any news from the capital, so he kept sending news to the capital. "Intercept it. No matter who he talks to, intercept it." Chu Luqin curved his thin lips and said, "If he sends the news to the capital, it will be much more peaceful after getting rid of a few of his subordinates." "Yes, Your Highness, I understand." Xiao Xuanzi understood tacitly and knew that his master wanted to kill one to warn others. Commandery Prince Qing had done a lot of things in private. Although he looked honest, he was actually very scheming. Xiao Wanru did not know that Chu Luqian wanted to go to the capital alone. The more she listened to the news got, the colder her back became. It turned out to be Marquis Qingzhen, or it should be said that it was indeed Marquis Qingzhen. He sent it to Marquis Qing'en's mansion. After hearing Qing's report, Xiao Wanru frowned. Was there something wrong with the painting or the maple leaf? It didn't look like a maple leaf. But if it wasn't a maple leaf, what was wrong with it? How could she get the painting from Marquis Qingzhen? Such a painting must be a birthday gift prepared for the Empress Dowager. She bit the corner of her lips gently. She had not been married to Chu Luqian for a long time and had not been to Marquis Qing'en's mansion, so it was not convenient for her to take the initiative to open the door at this time. He sent it to Marquis Qing'en's mansion. Your Highness, I sent someone to keep an eye on the shop assistant before. He sent the painting to Marquis Qing'en's mansion and mixed into the crowd after leaving. My man turned around and entered a shop late. When I looked for him again, he was gone. Qing said. The shop assistant was very careful. Even if he did not find anyone following him, he dealt with it carefully. Continue to keep an eye on Marquis Qing'en's mansion. If you see Marquis Qingzhen taking the painting out, report to me immediately. Xiao Wanru bit the corner of her lips gently and said. No matter what, she had to get the painting. Even if she couldn't get it, she had to destroy it. But she had no way to go to Marquis Qing'en's mansion. She didn't even have a reason to go to Marquis Qing'en's mansion, let alone to get the painting. She gently twisted the handkerchief between her fingers, suddenly stood up and said decisively, let's go to Grandma's house now. Since she couldn't do it, her grandma must be able to do it. Compared with her, the new Princess Chen, her grandma had a reason to have casual contact with such an old noble family. She needed a reason to go to Marquis Qing'en's mansion. Now the only one who could solve this problem was her grandma. Chapter 1077. Rui, and great elder princess, was very surprised that Xiao Wanru came at this time. After taking her hand and asking her to sit down, she looked her up and down and found that she looked the same as before, so she breathed a sigh of relief. She had wanted to visit Xiao Wanru before, but Xiao Wanru told her not to come and said that if she came to visit her, she would ask someone to inquire about it from great elder princess. Why do you come here today? Is there anything wrong? Rui, and great elder princess, asked with concern. She had told her not to go, but now she suddenly came to visit her. Rui, and great elder princess, was really worried. Grandma, I'm fine. I just want to visit you. What happened before has passed, so it's okay to visit you at this time. Xiao Wanru said with a smile, took Rui, and great elder princess's hand and shook it. Xiao Wanru didn't want to involve Rui, and great elder princess, in the matter of the painting. It was best not to know this kind of thing. Her grandma was straightforward and short-tempered, so it was safest for her not to know anything. What happened in the last life was too mysterious. There was no need for her grandma to explain it too much, which would only make her worry. You are so mysterious every day. You even don't let me come to see you. You didn't tell me what happened before in detail. What happened? Why did the Emperor's imperial guards come to your mansion? Rui, and great elder princess, waved her hand and asked after the others left. She had been worried about it for several days. If she hadn't trusted her granddaughter, she wouldn't have been able to sit still at that time and wanted to go to the imperial palace to ask the Empress Dowager about it. It was not a good thing for the Emperor's imperial guards to appear in any mansion. It usually brought about a bloody storm. However, the storm was big but the raindrops were small, which made people more suspicious. Chu Luqian was not in the mansion, so people could only suspect Xiao Wanru, Princess Chen. Rui, and great elder princess, was relieved when her granddaughter dealt with the matter of Marquis Xing's mansion with ease. She suppressed her temper and listened to her granddaughter's words. Grandmother, it's not a big deal. It's just that it's the remnants of the previous dynasty. Someone must have deliberately spread the news to the emperor's ears, so the emperor sent people over. Fortunately, the chief steward was there. Otherwise, I was just an inner court princess. Although my status was noble, I wouldn't be useful at this time. Xiao Wanru said with a flower-like smile. Her watery eyes curved with a smile, showing a sense of carelessness. It could be seen that it was really not a big deal. Ruian Great Elder Princess breathed a sigh of relief. She was really afraid that something serious would happen. The chief steward of Prince Chen's mansion was someone she had to respect when she met him. He was the chief steward of the Empress's palace and wholeheartedly protected the little master. He was even unwilling to stay in the palace just to protect the little master. In this aspect, Ruian Great Elder Princess really appreciated the chief steward's loyalty. Thinking of what happened that day, she should really thank the chief steward. Although Zhuozhuo was smart, she was young and inexperienced. When encountering this kind of thing, she would immediately be flustered. With the chief steward in charge of the affairs, this matter was resolved. Ruian Great Elder Princess still felt a lingering fear when she thought of it. No one expected that the emperor would send imperial guards to Prince Chen's mansion. There were guards sent by the emperor at the gate of Prince Chen's mansion before, but these guards ostensibly protected Prince Chen's mansion and would not disturb Princess Chen's peace. She thought that the emperor was really going to deal with Prince Chen. When you go back, bring a gift for me to the chief steward of your mansion. Tell him that I thank him. Ruian Great Elder Princess said. I thank you on behalf of the chief steward. Xiao Wanru accepted it calmly with a smile. Given her grandma's character, she would definitely thank the chief steward at this time. If she didn't accept it, it would make her grandma suspicious. It was the best for her to accept it calmly. Grandma, has Infanta Yuan's face recovered yet? I heard that the doctor was very good at medical skills. Didn't it work? Xiao Wanru changed the topic and asked curiously. When Ruian Great Elder Princess was about to go to Prince Chen's mansion, she didn't come because of Infanta Yuan and Ruian Great Elder Princess. Her words attracted Ruian Great Elder Princess's attention. She shook her head and said, the doctor is very good, but now I heard that he has returned to his hometown. Returned to his hometown? Xiao Wanru was stunned for a moment. She really didn't think of this reason. Did Dr. Chiu have a hometown? Where was his hometown? His household registration had been changed again and again, so she didn't know where his hometown was at all. Ruian Great Elder Princess sighed and said, yes, he said that something happened in his family and he had to go back first. He left some medicine for Infanta Yuan, but Infanta Yuan accidentally broke it. So he was anxious to find another skilled doctor. Ruian Great Elder Princess sighed. She was straightforward but kind-hearted. She couldn't bear to see Infanta Yuan cry. When she came over that day, although Infanta Yuan had a veil on her face, she took it off and showed it to her. There was indeed a scar on her face. A woman's appearance was the most precious, and Infanta Yuan was about to marry Prince Shou. This was not only undignified but also shameful. Dr. Chiu had returned to his hometown. Xiao Wanru didn't believe it from the bottom of her heart. During the 3 years in Marquis Xing's mansion, she had never seen Dr. Chiu return home. Mingqiu Nun had also said that Dr. Chiu was simply an orphan and didn't have a home. It was obvious that she deliberately made excuses. But what was Dr. Chiu doing now? He didn't even care about the scar on Infanta Yuan's face. Did he go to treat another person who was more important than Infanta Yuan or for other reasons? Xiao Wanru really couldn't figure it out at the moment. With all kinds of thoughts in her mind, she still looked calm and said with a smile, why didn't Infanta Yuan go to the imperial palace to find an imperial physician? The imperial physicians in the Imperial Institute of Medicine are all skilled in medicine. Why did they come to our mansion? Dr. Qi never treats outsiders. Ruian Great Elder Princess said that Yuan didn't trust the imperial physicians in the imperial palace and said that they didn't treat her well. The imperial physicians had asked her to apply the medicine on her face before, so they really didn't have good taste. Ruian Great Elder Princess explained. Xiao Wanru was speechless for a while. She didn't like the imperial physicians in the imperial palace, but liked Dr. Qi in her mansion. It was quite unbelievable. Grandma, what did you say later? I just said that you were not in good health. You forced yourself to go out and basically had no strength to see outsiders. Even I didn't come to see you, for fear that you might have used up your energy. We can only wait for this matter now. Rui and Great Elder Princess said. Then she looked at Xiao Wanru and reminded her, I used this as an excuse before. Now that you have come out in good health, I'm afraid that Infanta Yuan and will still come to your mansion, or maybe directly to your mansion. You should be prepared. Grandma, don't worry. I got it. Xiao Wanru nodded and agreed. Since she came to Rui and Great Elder Princess's mansion, it meant that she was not seriously ill. It would be unreasonable for her to use this reason to stop her. Yuan then, it's not easy to deal with this matter. She has been treated by a doctor before, but she hasn't fully recovered yet. If she gets treated again, it will benefit others. But if she doesn't recover, it will be your mansion's fault. Prince Shou's wedding is a big deal, so you can't be careless. Rui and Great Elder Princess was afraid that Xiao Wanru was young and ignorant, so she said bluntly. Grandma, don't worry. I know. I won't take this matter. Xiao Wanru reassured her. But if she comes to your mansion, what are you going to do? You can't refuse her directly, can you? Rui and Great Elder Princess was still worried. She thought that it was not appropriate for her granddaughter to go out at this time. It was best for her granddaughter to come out after Chu Luchen came to the mansion. When Chu Luchen was in the mansion, no one dared to go to Prince Chen's mansion to ask for trouble. Now her granddaughter couldn't be in charge of the mansion, so she had to give face to others. If she comes to my mansion, I have a way to deal with it. Grandma, don't worry. Xiao Wanru patted her chest with a smile and said confidently. Looking at the confidence on her pretty little face, Rui and Great Elder Princess laughed at this time even though she was full of worries. Then she took her hand and said with a sigh, Zhuozhua, if you have anything to say, just tell me. Although I don't have much ability, I can always protect you. Looking at Rui and Great Elder Princess's worried and concerned look, Xiao Wanru felt a little sad in her heart. She reached out to hold Rui and Great Elder Princess and said, Grandma, don't worry. With you here, I will be at ease. She would not be forced to live in the nunnery like in the last life. All her relatives had died, and she, as a Great Elder Princess, was forced to live in the nunnery. Xiao Wanru would not believe it if she said that she was sincere. The corners of Rui and Great Elder Princess's eyes turned slightly red. She reached out to pat Xiao Wanru's thin shoulder and felt a lump in her throat. Her granddaughter was really sensible and smart. Thinking that she was so smart at such a young age and could even make plans for herself and she felt sad for a moment. If Xiao Wanru was a girl raised by a noble family, how could she work so hard? Seeing that his granddaughter knew nothing and was living happily under the knees of her parents, he couldn't help but sigh. If she hadn't been driven to a dead end, how could there be such a sensible child? Xiao Wanru rarely mentioned the things in the Qin's mansion in front of Rui and Great Elder Princess. Even if she mentioned it, she would not mention the bad things and only talked about the interesting things when she was young. Rui and Great Elder Princess knew that her granddaughter was afraid that she would worry about her, so she only reported the good things and not the bad things. Xiao Wanru was too sensible and kept everything in her heart. How many things could she bear on her thin shoulders? Grandma, I am very good and happy. Now Prince Chen, you and Hao are here. Xiao Wanru seemed to be able to see Rui and Great Elder Princess's expression. She leaned in Great Elder Princess's arms and said softly. She hugged Great Elder Princess hard and then let go of her with a smile. My child, my child. Rui and Great Elder Princess felt speechless. How could this child ask for so little? She was so happy with this. She choked with sobs and thought, this child is too self-reliant. Grandma, I have something to trouble you today. Seeing that she made her grandma cry, Xiao Wanru hurriedly pulled her sleeve and shook it, acting coquettishly. What's the matter? Tell me. Rui and Great Elder Princess said in a hurry. She really wanted to help. Chapter 1078. How are grandmother and Marquis Qingzhen? Xiao Wanru blinked her long eyelashes and asked. She didn't tell her maternal grandmother the truth because she was afraid of accidents. Given her maternal grandmother's temperament and her straightforward personality, it would be safer if she didn't know anything. Manner of Marquis Qingzhen. The Empress Dowager's maiden family? Rui and Great Elder Princess asked in surprise. Did something happen in Marquis Qingzhen's mansion? What could maternal grandmother have to do? It's just for Imperial Grandmother's birthday. I just married into Prince Chen's mansion, and our prince is not here now. It's the first time I've prepared a birthday gift for Imperial Grandmother, so I have to please her. However, I haven't been in contact with Imperial Grandmother for a long time, so I want to inquire about Empress Dowager's preferences from Marquis Qingzhen's mansion. Xiao Wanru blushed faintly and lowered her head shyly. Seeing that Rui and Great Elder Princess looked like a nervous daughter-in-law with a flower-like face full of shyness and joy, Rui and Great Elder Princess smiled happily. She looked like a real bride. She always worried that her granddaughter was too burdensome and lacked the cheerfulness and naivety of a young girl. From the looks of it, she was at least satisfied with this marriage. Otherwise, she wouldn't have revealed such a naive expression. It's fine, it's fine. I have a good relationship with Marquis Qingzhen's wife. Tomorrow, I'll bring you to visit Marquis Qingzhen and ask about the Empress Dowager's preferences. Rui and Great Elder Princess said with a smile, in fact, I also know some of the Empress Dowager's preferences, so you don't have to go to Marquis Qingzhen's mansion to inquire about them. She had been the Empress Dowager's sister-in-law for so many years, so she could understand the Empress Dowager's preferences. Her maternal grandmother knew a little, but Zhuozhuo wanted to know more details. If she accidentally offended the Empress Dowager, not only would the Empress Dowager not like her, but Prince would also lose face. Xiao Wanru said with a shy smile. This situation was very in line with her current identity. A young daughter-in-law who had just married into her husband's family was naturally worried that she would not be able to win the favor of her elders, or that she would accidentally make them dislike her. So what if she was an ordinary young daughter-in-law, not to mention the royal family, the #1 family in the world? All right, it's all up to you. Rui and Great Elder Princess nodded repeatedly and suddenly felt that she had to go to Marquis Qingzhen's mansion. After Xiao Wanru returned to Prince Chen's mansion, she sent an invitation card to Marquis Qingzhen's mansion. The next day, he took Xiao Wanru to Marquis Qingzhen's mansion early in the morning. Marchioness Qingzhen had long received the news and had been waiting for a long time. Xiao Wanru followed the young madam of Marquis Qingzhen's mansion, who led the way, to a flower hall. An old lady sitting in the middle of the flower hall had already stood up and came out to welcome them with a smile. Although Marchioness Qingzhen was the sister-in-law of the Empress Dowager, in terms of status, she was not as noble as Rui and Great Elder Princess and Prince Chen. Madam, you don't have to be so polite. This isn't my first time here. Rui and Great Elder Princess took 2 steps forward and pulled up Marchioness Qingzhen, who was about to bow, with a smile. It wasn't the first time for the princess to come, but it was the first time for Princess Chen. They couldn't be rude. Marchioness Qingzhen said with a smile and was about to bow to Xiao Wanru. Xiao Wanru raised her hand to Marchioness Qingzhen with a smile and said, Madam, you're welcome. You're an elder, so there's no need to be so polite. Seeing that Xiao Wanru was not only beautiful but also elegant, Marchioness Qingzhen nodded repeatedly and had a good impression of her. This was the first time she had seen Xiao Wanru in person. She had heard from the Empress Dowager that Prince Chen had taken a fancy to Princess Chen and said that he had waited for her for a few years. She liked Xiao Wanru more and more from the bottom of her heart. She didn't think that Xiao Wanru was just favored by Prince Chen because of her young age. Who knew when she would fall out of favor? After all, Prince Chen looked gentle, but in fact, he was very cold-hearted and no one could enter his heart. Princess Chen only entered Prince Chen's mansion because she had a good reputation. Marchioness Qingzhen was old and experienced a lot. Prince Chen was indeed cold-hearted. At the beginning, she had wanted to marry her granddaughter to Prince Chen. Although Prince Chen might not live a long life, at least he had a noble status. However, Prince Chen did not give face to his granddaughters. All of them looked gentle and amiable in the past, but in the eyes of Marquis Chen Zhen, they seemed to be looking at a dead thing, without a trace of emotion. From that moment on, Marquis Chengen's madam gave up and never thought of sending her granddaughters to Prince Chen's mansion again. Since Princess Chen was really chosen by Prince Chen and he had waited for her for 3 years, it could be seen that he really cared about her. Marchioness Chen Zhen had watched Chu Luchen grow up and knew that he was cold-hearted. But if he really fell in love with her, no one could replace him. At present, Princess Chen seemed to be really outstanding, not only in appearance but also in manners. It was said that she had been raised in Qin's mansion since she was a child and had a hard life. She didn't have a biological mother to educate her, but her adoptive mother had always wanted to plot against her. In this case, her appearance and manners were no worse than those of ordinary misses from aristocratic families, and even more decent in some aspects. She was worthy of her identity as Princess Chen. The 3 of them sat down in the flower hall, and Rui, and great elder princess, was sitting in the guest seat in the middle. Xiao Wanru and young madam of Marchioness Chen Zhen accompanied them on both sides. Why did great elder princess have time to come here today? Old madam put down the teacup in her hand and asked with a smile. It's nothing important. I just want to ask what good things your mansion has prepared for the Empress Dowager's birthday. I want to refer to them. Rui and great elder princess also put down the teacup and said with a smile. On the way here, Xiao Wanru had discussed with Rui and great elder princess and said so. In fact, our mansion didn't prepare many things. Master Ho brought some back before and is still choosing. Marchioness Chen Zhen said with a smile. In the past few days, she brought things to the mansion almost every day. She said that she wanted to choose good things, but she couldn't make a decision in a short time. Instead, she brought a lot of things to the mansion almost every day. At first, Marchioness Chen Zhen checked them one by one, but later, she became numb. She just gave the money to the servant to pay the bill. Seeing that the money in her hand was much less, Marchioness Chen Zhen also told Marquis Chen Zhen to buy what he liked and not to buy all the good and bad things. If great elder princess wants to see them, I'll ask someone to show you the things our Master Ho bought these days, but they may not be good. In fact, the Empress Dowager may not like what our Master Ho likes. Marchioness Chen Zhen said again, while instructing the old maid behind her to take out all the things the Master Ho bought in the past few days. The old maid took a few people to the study of Marquis Chen Zhen and soon brought a lot of things over. There were rows of brocade boxes stacked on top of each other on the table, and there were scrolls of calligraphy and paintings behind them. Why were there so many things? Rui and great elder princess widened her eyes in surprise. Looking at the table full of things, she gasped for a moment. Were they going to give away all these things? How could it be? Marchioness Chen Zhen said with a wry smile. Our Master Ho was just an ignorant person. When he saw something he liked, he would bring it to the mansion. He thought that if he liked it, the Empress Dowager would also like it. However, every time he saw a new thing, he thought it was better than the previous one. After being fooled by others, he thought it was the best, so he bought it again. Marchioness Chen Zhen had told her many times about Marquis Chengen's character. However, Marquis Chen Zhen was a good person. He listened to whatever she said to his face, but he was soft-hearted. The next day, when he was told otherwise, he felt that it was right, so he ignored Marchioness Chengen's words. Xiao Wanru stood up curiously, walked to the table, turned around, and asked, Marchioness Chen Zhen, can I have a look? Princess Chen, please go ahead. Marchioness Chen Zhen waved her hand and said. She had sharp eyes and could tell that Rui and great elder princess came here mainly to accompany Princess Chen this time. Princess Chen was newly married. In order to please the Empress Dowager, she specially came to their mansion to ask about their gifts so as to find out the Empress Dowager's preference. Marchioness Chen Zhen appreciated Xiao Wanru very much, so she would not hide anything. The Empress Dowager had always liked Prince Chen, so Marquis Chengen's mansion naturally treated the people of Prince Chen's mansion well. Moreover, Xiao Wanru was also very suitable for Marchioness Chengen. Princess Chen, please take a look. This is a jade stone. Young Madam of Marchioness Chengen came over, opened a brocade box, and handed it to Xiao Wanru. Xiao Wanru looked at it. It was a piece of red jade, which looked pretty. It was a pair of jade bracelets. Young Madam of Marchioness Chengen opened another one. This time, it was a pair of blood jade bracelets, which were exquisite and gorgeous. It was a piece of jade pendant. The blood jade pendant was simple in shape. At first glance, one could tell that it was a treasure of the previous generation. It was a piece of ruby, which had been cut out of the raw stone. It had not been made into an object, but it could be matched with any gold ornament. It was a tea set made of blood-red cinnabar. There were 101 pink pearls, which could be made into Buddha beads, which could clear one's mind and calm one's mind. It was red. She opened the brocade boxes one by one. Looking at the treasures which were either red or pink, not only Xiao Wanru was stunned, but also Rui, and Great Elder Princess. I know that the Empress Dowager likes festive colors, but I didn't say that she likes them to such an extent. Rui, and Great Elder Princess blinked and asked tentatively. She really didn't know that the Empress Dowager liked red so much. Could it be that she had really overlooked something? She had been the sister-in-law of the Empress Dowager for so many years, but she really didn't notice it. Marchioness Chengen said with a wry smile, he said that the Empress Dowager likes them, but in fact, it is our Marquis who likes them. However, he said that the Empress Dowager also likes them. He said that the Empress Dowager liked this kind of red ornaments a long time ago, so he prepared all these. In fact, after so many years, although the Empress Dowager still likes them, she doesn't like them so much. Speaking of this, Marchioness Chengen really felt very helpless. She had tried to persuade him, but Marquis Chengen just thought so and didn't listen to her. The Empress Dowager was now the Empress Dowager, so there was no need to use red to set off her position as the legal empress as before. However, her husband didn't listen to her no matter what she said. Chapter 1079. Marchioness Chengen actually knew that her husband had a knot in his heart. The knot in his heart was about the Empress Dowager. He remembered that he was so disappointing that he couldn't support his sister. As a result, although his sister was the legal wife, she was suppressed by a favored woman. Marchioness Chengen felt sorry for his sister every time he thought of it. He wanted to search for some red objects for his sister. He couldn't support his sister with his strength, so he wanted to show the dignity of the legal wife through these objects. He wanted to support his sister spiritually. Marquis Chengen always felt that he had let down his younger sister, that he had failed to live up to expectations and caused his younger sister to suffer grievances. However, he never thought that his younger sister was now the Empress Dowager. The current emperor was not the Empress Dowager's husband, but her biological son. Even the emperor had to lower his head in front of her. She didn't need to wear bright red clothes to show her dignity as the legal wife. Marchioness Chengen saw these things more clearly than Marchioness Chengen, so she tried to persuade him again and again. However, he was stubborn and thought that his sister just liked them. Since he liked them, he would try his best to find these objects to make his sister happy. He didn't have much ability, but at least he wouldn't treat his sister badly in terms of clothes. Marquis thinks that the Empress Dowager has suffered a little in the past. Marchioness Chengen explained with a wry smile. Xiao Wanru understood. She looked at these objects helplessly and turned her eyes to the calligraphy and paintings aside. In fact, her purpose of coming here today was not for the things in these brocade boxes. Seeing her look over, the young madam of Marchioness Chengen hurriedly took out a scroll of calligraphy and opened it. A scroll of landscape painting appeared in front of her. It seemed to be an authentic work. The young madam of Marchioness Chengen put the painting in front of Xiao Wanru and opened another one. It was a painting of fishing in the cold river at night. After putting it down, she opened it again. After opening the paintings one by one, they were all different. There were landscape paintings, people paintings, prosperous city paintings, and some travel paintings. Xiao Wanru's watery eyes glanced over these paintings and finally fell on a few similar paintings. These paintings were basically about mother and son. Some were about several children playing together, some were about mother and son having fun, and some were about a mother sewing new clothes for her son. All kinds of differences showed the same theme, mother and son getting along well with each other. These are almost the same. Xiao Wanru said softly as her fingers slid across the paintings of the mother and the son playing in front of her. Father feels that it is best to prepare these pictures for the Empress Dowager. Father has always wanted to find a picture that can show the harmony between His Majesty and the Empress Dowager. Not only His Majesty, but also the Empress Dowager's children. Father also hopes to be on the picture. The young Madam of Marquis Qingzhen was actually a middle-aged person and was very astute. Seeing Xiao Wanru's fingers sliding over the painting, she understood it and explained with a smile. Everyone present knew what the reason was. Which one does Marquis Qingzhen find most agreeable? Xiao Wanru's eyes fell on the painting and she asked softly. Her long eyelashes fluttered a few times with a little curiosity that was very suitable for her age. Father said that every one of them was not bad, but none of them had the feeling he had imagined. The young Madam of Marquis Qingzhen shook her head. It's always not what he wants. I heard that father is even asking the painters in the palace to help him draw one. It's just that no matter how he chooses, he can't find a suitable one. Marquis Qing'an's madam was very helpless about Marquis Qing'an's persistence. As the young madam, she was also under great pressure. Is there no suitable one? Xiao Wanru said meaningfully, Marquis Qingzhen has not found a satisfactory one until now. As she spoke, she picked up a painting at random, looked at it, put it down, and picked up another one. Her words reminded Marquis Qing'an's madam. She thought for a while and said, it's not that there is none. I just got a painting. Master Ho said that the painting is very good, but I didn't take it seriously, so I didn't look at it. I heard that it is made of maple leaves. Are there any among these paintings? As Marquis Qingzhen spoke, he also came over to have a look. He didn't find the painting he was talking about, so he turned his head and gave an order to the old maid behind him. The old maid nodded and left. After a while, she came in with a box in her arms. Judging from the outside of the box, this painting was more exquisite than the previous one. Opening the box, Marquis Qing'an's madam carefully unrolled the painting. While showing it to Xiao Wanru, she said, I didn't remember about this painting before. Master Ho just mentioned it and said that if there is no more boring painting, I will give this one to the Empress Dowager in front of all the officials, so that His Majesty can also appreciate the Empress Dowager's love for her son. When the painting was unfolded, there was a vivid picture of a mother and 3 sons. One son was lying on the bed and seemed to be sick. The mother was taking care of the sick eldest son, and the other son was leaning against her side, looking at his eldest brother on the bed. The other son didn't know what was going on. He was playing happily on the side and didn't notice the scene of his mother, his eldest brother, and his second brother. It was a very warm picture. Even though Xiao Wanru was prepared, she didn't notice anything. It is made of maple leaves. This is so ingenious. Rui, and great elder princess also came over and said in surprise. With maple leaves as the base, the painting was particularly suitable. There were only a few strokes in the blank space, which made the mother and son look vivid. The veins of the maple leaves also reflected the ingenious idea. This is really a good painting. Good, it is indeed good. It not only fits well, but also ingenious. It can't be bought with money. The more Rui, and great elder princess looked at it, the more she liked it. A mother and 3 sons. Didn't it refer to the Empress Dowager? In the painting, the mother looked at her eldest son lovingly. The second son, who was leaning against her hand, was also very attached. As for the third son, he was ignorant and was playing on the side. It's really good. I didn't care about it before, and I haven't seen it before. Master Ho is used to doing some unconventional things. I didn't expect it to be so appropriate. It's really good. It was the first time for Marquis Chingan's madam to see this painting. She smiled. It was rare for Marquis Qingzhen to give her such face. Xiao Wanru looked at the painting carefully. It was really good. It was a wonderful idea to use maple leaves as a painting. No wonder it was regarded as the Empress Dowager's favorite and sent to the imperial palace. It was presented to the Empress Dowager in front of the Empress Dowager, the Emperor, the ministers, and the officials' families, and then displayed it on the spot. Imagining this picture, it was very grand and suitable to give such a decent birthday gift. Marquis Qingzhen was not an aristocratic family with real power, but it was the Empress Dowager's family. If they kept giving valuable things, it would show the wealth of Marquis Qing'an's mansion too much. Only this kind of calligraphy and painting was very elegant and showed their status. He liked this kind of unique and ingenious painting even more. If he didn't know a little about it in his previous life, he wouldn't have thought of using maple leaves as the base and accompanying it with ink and brush to make the painting more outstanding. But no matter how she looked at the painting, she didn't find anything unusual or wrong with it. How could such a painting make the Empress Dowager ill and die? How could it become the source of the rebellion against Prince Shou? Holding the painting in her hand, her long eyelashes fluttered on her face, and her eyes became more and more serene. Shuozhuo, why are you so interested in this painting? Rui, and great elder princess couldn't help laughing when she saw Xiao Wanru looking at it over and over again as if she was reluctant to let it go. Grandma, don't make fun of me. Xiao Wanru said, reluctantly put down the painting, and said in a coquettish tone, while calmly glancing at Yujie, who was standing beside her. Yujie understood, took a step forward, and said in a low voice in surprise, "Why is it similar to the painting prepared by our princess?" She said in a very low voice, as if she was talking to herself, but standing close to her, everyone could hear her clearly. Shuozhuo, have you also prepared such a maple leaf painting? Rui, and great elder princess asked with a smile. Xiao Wanru nodded shyly and said with a little embarrassment, "It's not as good as the one in Marquis Qing'an's mansion. I painted it myself with maple leaves." What a coincidence. I wonder if Princess Qin can let me have a look at it. Marquis Qing'an's madam also became interested and asked with a smile. Of course. Xiao Wanru nodded to Yujie. When she came here before, she just wanted to see this maple leaf painting and then draw out her own painting from it. When she made that painting at the beginning, she also had this intention. Yujie turned around and went out. After a while, she took the prepared painting from the carriage and put it in a box. She came to the front of everyone, opened the box, and carefully took out the painting inside. When they saw the painting inside, Rui, and great elder princess and Marquis Qing'an's madam nodded repeatedly. The artistic conception was not fake, and the painting was very good. The most unique thing was the ingenuity, which was really hard to be compared with. Princess Qin is really clever and skillful. Marquis Qing'an's madam praised repeatedly. The painting in Marquis Qing'an's mansion was sold outside, while the one in Prince Chen's mansion was made by Princess Qin herself. The difference between the two was obvious, and it showed more sincerity to give it to the Empress Dowager. Compared with such a painting, the painting in Marquis Qing'an's mansion was inferior. It was given to the Empress Dowager for her birthday in front of the Emperor and the ministers, so it was naturally unique. Now the two paintings collided, and the one in Prince Chen's mansion was more outstanding, so Marquis Qing'an's mansion wanted to retreat. This painting was not a famous painting. Although it was very exquisite, it won in ingenuity. Now this ingenuity was not as good as that of Princess Chen, so it was better not to give this painting to her. Otherwise, it would make Marquis Qing'an's mansion lose face. It was better not to use tricks. After they collided, it would be fine if they won, but it would not be good if they lost. Princess Chen's painting is very good, and it was actually made by Princess Chen herself. The Empress Dowager will definitely like it very much. Young Madam of Marquis Qing'an's mansion also praised repeatedly. Xiao Wanru said a few polite words with a blush, and then asked Yujie to put away the painting. She had almost seen it. After thanking Marquis Qing'an's madam, she left. Chapter 1080. Marquis Qingzhen didn't know that Xiao Wanru's simple painting had ruined his previous satisfactory painting. After returning to the mansion, he went to the study and wanted to appreciate this satisfactory painting again, but was stopped by Marquis's wife's servant, who asked him to go to the backyard first. Marquis Qingzhen didn't know what had happened and followed the old maid in. When he entered the door, his eyes immediately fell on the table. The precious painting he had just obtained was placed in the box on the table. For a moment, he didn't understand what had happened. After entering the door, he stomped to the table with his hands clasped behind his back, looked at the painting, and asked in confusion, "What's wrong? Didn't you say that you didn't want to see the painting I bought?" "Marquis, is this a birthday gift for Empress Dowager?" Marquis Qingzhen's wife asked. Marquis Qingzhen turned around and sat down beside her. He nodded and said with a smile, "This painting is good, isn't it? It fits the scene and has a wonderful idea. If I give it to Empress Dowager, it will definitely make her proud, and His Majesty will be grateful for Empress Dowager's kindness." The more Marquis Qingzhen thought about it, the more satisfied he felt. He was extremely satisfied. "Marquis, you'd better not give it to Empress Dowager in public. This painting is not the only birthday gift." Marquis Qingzhen's wife shook her hand and said bluntly, "Just now, Rui, and great elder princess and Princess Qin came over, and Princess Qin also took out a painting. It is very similar to your painting, and it is more exquisite than yours. The most important thing is that the painting was made by Princess Qin herself, and it is also designed with maple leaves." "What? How is this possible?" Marquis Qingzhen raised his head in shock and was stunned. Recently, he had been looking for a suitable painting to give to Empress Dowager. This painting of maple leaves was the most wonderful idea he could find. Before he found it, he had never even thought that it could be painted in this way. Such a good idea was actually made with someone else, and this person was Princess Qin. What's more, Princess Qin made it herself. Empress Dowager would like this idea more than him. Marquis Qingzhen's wife rubbed her forehead and said helplessly, "Marquis, it's true. Not only did I see it, but my daughter-in-law also saw it. There was nothing bad about this husband of hers. It was just that he was too gentle, too soft, and didn't have much ability." However, none of this was important. As long as Marquis Qingzhen was doing well and didn't cause any trouble, Marquis Qingzhen's wife didn't think it was a big deal. Of course, it was best not to do anything shameful. Marquis Qingzhen Manor was the Empress Dowager's maiden home. If they lost face, it was the Empress Dowager who lost face. "Master Marquis, this painting conflicts with Princess Chen's, and it's not as good as Princess Chen's. You'd better not give it to her, lest you lose face. Moreover, you're an elder. How can you clash with a junior? You won't give way." She knew that Princess Qin had also given a maple leaf painting, and it was better than the one in her residence. In fact, even if it was better than the one in her residence, Marchioness Qingzhen felt that she had to give in. An elder should give in to a junior, not to mention that this was Princess Qin. Even if someone knew about the matter, they would only say that the Marquis was magnanimous and decent. Princess Qin was a newlywed and wanted to please the Empress Dowager. It was her first time giving a birthday gift, so she had to do her best. Marquis Qingzhen's mansion was the Empress Dowager's maiden home. The Empress Dowager doted on Prince Qin, so Marquis Qingzhen's mansion should also help him a little. No matter from which aspect, Marquis Qingzhen's mansion had to give way to Princess Qin. Taking a step back, if she didn't know that Princess Qin had also prepared a maple leaf painting and accidentally bumped into it, there was nothing to say. Now that she knew, she pretended not to know. Marchioness Qingzhen felt that it was really inappropriate. Is she really as prepared as I am? Marquis Qingzhen's heart ached as he looked at his own painting. He really wasn't convinced. It wasn't easy for him to obtain such a painting, so he really didn't want to give it back. Of course it's about the same, and it's even better. Marquis's painting can't compare to Princess Chen's, and this painting wasn't drawn by Marquis Qingzhen himself, so it lacks some of the sincerity. Marchioness Qingzhen's wife mercilessly attacked him, making his words sound worthless. Marquis Qingzhen felt very wronged. He really felt that it was very good and really wanted to give the painting to his sister. But since Marquis Qingzhen's wife said so, he couldn't ignore it. He lowered his head dejectedly. Since Princess Chen is like this, then forget it. I won't give it to the Empress Dowager. Actually, the Empress Dowager would definitely like it very much. The more Marquis Qingzhen thought about it, the more upset he became. He felt that his sincerity had been wasted and was really unwilling. He looked blankly at the painting on the table and felt his heart wrench. He was very unwilling. Marquis Qingzhen's wife rubbed her brows helplessly when she saw his gloomy expression, as if he had no interest in life. If Marquis must give it, there is a way. What way? Marquis Qingzhen became spirited. He sat up straight and looked at his wife with a serious expression. His wife always had her own ideas, but he didn't have any big ideas himself. Sometimes, he had to ask his wife for ideas. If Marquis must give it, and you feel that the Empress Dowager will like it, then give it in private. Marquis Qingzhen's wife said helplessly. Marquis Qingzhen's stubborn personality was becoming more and more like a child. If she didn't appease him today, he would be depressed for the next few days. He wouldn't have much energy. It wasn't a good thing for an old person to be in bad spirits all the time. Can I? Marquis Qingzhen's eyes lit up as he asked excitedly. He didn't have to give it in front of the emperor and the officials, but he felt that the Empress Dowager would definitely like it. If he didn't give it to the Empress Dowager, he wouldn't feel benevolent. Yes, you can, but you have to make it clear that Princess Chen's painting is better. You shouldn't give it to her, but you feel that the Empress Dowager will like it, so you specially gave it to her, Marquis Qingzhen said. Okay, I know. I'll pack up and go to the palace to see the Empress Dowager in a while. Marquis Qingzhen nodded repeatedly. As long as he was asked to give it to her, he would be happy to do it in any way. He simply wanted the Empress Dowager to see his sincerity and like it. Zhuozhuo knows about this painting? Rui and Great Elder Princess asked. She was also surprised at the moment, but after thinking about it carefully, how could she not be confused? It was Xiao Wanru who was going to Marquis Qingzhen's mansion, and it was also Xiao Wanru who took out a similar painting. Grandma, I did hear that Marquis Qingzhen got a painting, which is actually similar to mine, so I specially asked you to help me ask about it. I originally thought that if this painting was not as good as the one in Marquis Qingzhen's mansion, I would put it away and not send it to the Empress Dowager. Or if Marchioness Qingzhen said there was something wrong with it, I wouldn't send it to her. Xiao Wanru lowered her head in embarrassment and said with a little shame in her eyes, I didn't know the details before, so I didn't explain it to you. I hope you can forgive me. Rui and Great Elder Princess couldn't bear to see her granddaughter like this. She waved her hand indifferently and said, since you have married into the royal family, you can tell me some things that you can tell me. You don't have to tell me some things about Prince Chen. There are many rules in the royal family. Since you married Prince Chen, you are a member of Prince Chen's mansion. You should always remember this. Speaking of this, Rui and Great Elder Princess stopped and then said slowly, no matter what you do, I will definitely stand on your side, but you don't have to tell me everything. Xiao Wanru's nose turned sour and she almost couldn't control the tears in her eyes. In the last life, she had missed out on her grandmother. In this life, her grandmother had given her all the love. She would protect her grandmother and all the people who loved her. Grandma, she bit her lip and suppressed the sadness in her heart. She raised her head again. Although there were still tears in her eyes, she showed a smile on her face and said, Grandma, don't worry. Zhuozhuo knows how to protect herself. Not only to protect herself, but also to protect Grandma and how, this child. Rui and Great Elder Princess, who had always been strong, also had tears in her eyes and said, You child, what are you talking about? It should be Grandma who protects you too. Your irresponsible mother made things like this and left you two young children to die. Thinking of her daughter who had passed away, Rui and Great Elder Princess couldn't hold back anymore and tears fell down. She had been angry with her daughter before, but now she only felt sorry for her daughter. She had to take care of her parents and children. Why didn't she know how to cherish herself? How could she die like this? Grandma, don't be sad. You have me, and how, now? We will definitely live a good life in the future. Xiao Wanru comforted Rui, and great elder princess. She stretched out her hand to pull the sleeves of the great elder princess and gently shook it. Her innocent appearance made the great elder princess feel a little less pain. Although her daughter was gone, the children she left behind were. Even if it was for the sake of this pair of lovely children, the great elder princess could not fall. She had to build a strong backing for them. Even though her granddaughter had become Prince Chen's wife now and didn't need her backing, Rui, and great elder princess still felt that she had to hold on. You mentioned before. How is the investigation of Xiao Jing going? Thinking of her daughter, she suddenly remembered what Xiao Wanru had mentioned before and said with a cold face, if Xiao Jing really did it, I will never let him go. Grandma, this matter still needs to be investigated. Without specific evidence, there is no way to make it clear. Don't worry, Xiao Wanru said. She hoped that these things were done by herself. Her grandma was old and not good at pretending. After the dust settled, she should tell her grandma the truth. She couldn't disturb her grandma, let alone make her angry and worried. She mentioned it to her grandma before because she had to ask her grandma about it. She would avenge her father and mother with her own hands. Her father must have died because of Xiao Jing, and Xiao Jing couldn't escape from her mother's death either. Madam of Marquis Xing, Jiang, must also know about it. However, it had been a long time, and it was not easy to find evidence. She would take her time and force her enemy into the abyss step by step. Chapter 1081. What kind of calligraphy and painting do you want? As expected, Rui, and great elder princess, was attracted and asked in surprise, the painting you sent to the Empress Dowager is good. Do you need something else? She was afraid that Xiao Wanru didn't know how to give gifts, so she patted her hand kindly and said, you don't have to give too many gifts. Just choose the best one. The Empress Dowager has seen all kinds of good things. In fact, the most important thing is the intention. Your maple leaf painting has the intention and the idea. It's already excellent. If you give more, it will make people feel that it's superfluous. Grandma, I want to see more calligraphy and paintings. Maybe I can make better ones, Xiao Wanru said. Okay, I have some here. You can take them if you like them. Rui, and great elder princess, nodded and said. She thought that Xiao Wanru meant to collect the best of various styles to make her previous paintings more perfect. Grandma, I naturally want to have a look at your calligraphy and paintings. You have to help me pay attention to them. If you see suitable ones, help me buy them. In a while, you can ask someone to send a message that you are looking for some good calligraphy and paintings. Xiao Wanru explained. She wanted to spread the news first. Okay, I got it. Rui, and great elder princess, nodded and agreed. Sister. The curtain at the door was lifted, and Xiao Yuanhao came in. He looked like a little boy and was no longer the little playboy he used to be. When he entered the door and saw Xiao Wanru, his eyes lit up. He took 2 steps forward and bowed respectfully to Xiao Wanru and Rui, and great elder princess. Sister and grandma, why didn't you take me out? Xiao Wanru smiled. The little boy already had a beautiful face. His appearance was a little different from Xiao Wanru's. He was more handsome than Xiao Wanru. Although he still looked like a child, it could be seen that he would definitely be an elegant and beautiful young man in the future. Compared with 3 years ago, he not only grew taller, but also became much more sensible. He was no longer the little boy who was forced to study and cried with tears and snot. You are studying. How can Grandma and I disturb you? Xiao Wanru said. How, come here and sit with Grandma. Rui, and great elder princess, said with a smile. Looking at her granddaughter and grandson, she liked them very much. Xiao Yuanhao sat down beside Rui, and great elder princess, and said, Sister, I study hard. Even if I go out with my maternal grandmother and sister, I won't miss my studies. Before my brother-in-law left, he told me that there are no other men in the family. If my maternal grandmother and sister have something to do, he asked me to accompany them. Even if I do nothing, it's good to boost your courage. Xiao Yuanhao stuck out his chest and felt that his brother-in-law, Prince Chen, was right. For his brother-in-law, Xiao Yuanhao had changed from fear to admiration. This process was actually a bitter one. Of course, these were not important. Xiao Yuanhao felt that what he had done in the past was his dark history, which was better not to be mentioned. Prince Chen said that even if he was sick and weak, he had to accompany his sister. Although he was young, he was also a man, so he couldn't let his sister be bullied. Seeing him acting like an adult, Xiao Wanru and Rui, and great elder princess looked at each other and couldn't help laughing. Okay, study hard in the future. I'll wait for you to become successful, Xiao Wanru said with a smile. Sister, rest assured. I will definitely support you in the future. If my brother-in-law dares to bully you, I will definitely not spare him. Xiao Yuanhao clenched his fists. Although he felt guilty, he still gritted his teeth to show that he could bear it. In fact, he was really afraid of this black-bellied brother-in-law. However, he couldn't be less manly in front of his sister. Even if he was afraid, he had to say it. Xiao Wanru stood up, walked to Xiao Yuanhao, and asked softly, "How has grown up and is now the heir of Marquis Xing's mansion?" If you don't have the title of heir of Marquis Xing's mansion, what will you do? I'm not afraid. I only want my sister and maternal grandmother, Xiao Yuanhao said without hesitation. When he was young and ignorant, people in the mansion always told him that everything in the mansion would belong to his elder brother and had nothing to do with him. They told him that he only needed to eat, drink and have fun. Even his manservant beside him said so. After hearing and seeing, Xiao Yuanhao never thought that the title of heir of Marquis belonged to him. When he was in the mansion, everyone around him shook their heads when talking about his parents. They said that they not only caused old madam to lose her daughter-in-law, but also caused him to lose his parents at a young age. They said that his mother, Infanta Qinghua, was self-righteous and didn't show filial piety to old madam. Later, she instigated his father to leave the mansion, which caused such a tragedy. In short, they brought all of this upon themselves, but the mansion had done their best to treat them. Such words made Xiao Yuanhao, who started to be sensible, very uncomfortable. He even scolded the manservant beside him for this. But even so, he still said what should be said. Even if he didn't say it in front of him, he would secretly say it behind his back. But he just had to hear it. At that time, he was still young and didn't know how to deal with this kind of thing. So he told it to old Madam and Madam Jiang, who loved him the most. They coaxed him on the surface and scolded the servants who gossiped a little. After that, they still did what they should do and even became worse. What he didn't understand before, he understood now. Everything was just the malice of Marquis Xing's mansion against him. In fact, Xiao Yuanhao didn't want to be the heir of Marquis Xing's mansion at all. Sister, the title of heir of Marquis is really nothing. I don't care whether I have it or not. Xiao Yuanhao said seriously with a straight face. Looking at this pair of little children, Rui and great elder princess's eyes turned red. She turned her head and wiped her eyes with a handkerchief. In fact, she didn't care about the title of Marquis Xing. After so many years of trouble, she just didn't want the title, which originally belonged to her daughter and son-in-law, to fall into the hands of the second branch of Marquis Xing's mansion. If it hadn't been for the second branch, her daughter and son-in-law wouldn't have been forced out of the capital city, and all the tragedies wouldn't have happened. Fortunately, her granddaughter and grandson were sensible. What made Rui and great elder princess feel most fortunate was that her granddaughter found Hao and helped her bring Hao to great elder princess's mansion so that she could raise Hao In this way, those people in Marquis Xing's mansion wouldn't raise Hao unjustly. They were all biological children. She didn't know why some people were so biased. Zhuozhuo, Hao doesn't care about the title, and I don't care about it either. Just do what you want to do. Rui, and great elder princess, wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes, turned her head and said with a smile. Xiao Wanru pulled Xiao Yuanhao to sit beside great elder princess and held great elder princess's hand with the other. Grandma, don't worry. Her long eyelashes fluttered twice to hide the sharp light in her eyes. She didn't really want to lose the title. She just wanted to know the thoughts of the people she cared about. Since everyone didn't care about it, she already had a plan in her mind. If someone thought that the title of Marquis Xing's mansion was what she and her grandma cared about the most, they would really be disappointed. It would be great if someone took it as a trump card. Rui, and great elder princess, wants to collect calligraphy and paintings. Zhao Shiran looked at Madame Zhao in front of him in astonishment and asked in surprise. Madame Zhao lowered her head, rubbed her handkerchief, and shook her head. Your father got the news that Rui, and great elder princess, collects calligraphy and paintings for Princess Chen. Why does Princess Chen want to collect calligraphy and paintings? Is it for the Empress Dowager's birthday? Zhao Shiran asked in confusion. If it's for the Empress Dowager's birthday, she should have prepared it early. It's almost the day. Why did she think of collecting it now? Isn't it too hasty? Your father means to ask if it's because of... Madame Zhao stretched out her hand and made a stroke, which represented the whole Marquis Xing's mansion. Mother, it can't be. Princess Chen hasn't returned to the Marquis' mansion. How could she suddenly do this? Zhao Shiran said in a low voice. There were only 2 of them in the room. The rest of the servants had been driven out. Madame Zhao came to visit her daughter today. Xiao Hua and couldn't sit still here, so he asked 2 servants to carry him to the study in the front yard. His injury had basically stabilized, and he just needed to take a good rest. His injury was serious, so he had to lie in bed for at least several months, and he couldn't ride a horse in the future. You haven't got any information from the son-in-law until now? Seeing that her daughter didn't make any progress, Madame Zhao said discontentedly. She frowned tightly and said in a reproachful tone. Mother, if I knew, how could I not tell you and father? Seeing that her mother didn't understand her, Zhao Shiran couldn't help being annoyed. Mother, since I decided to marry into the Marquis' mansion, I have decided to help father. Am I not doing good enough now? After saying that, she cried aggrievedly. Thinking of her lost child, she felt a burst of sadness. When she married into the Marquis' mansion, she did have an ulterior motive, but she also lived with Xiao Hua and wholeheartedly. Now her life was like this, which she had never thought before. In the past, she was also proud and arrogant, thinking that as long as she wanted to live a good life, there was nothing she couldn't do. Unexpectedly, something happened as soon as she married into the Marquis' mansion. After that, things happened one after another. Now, she didn't even know how to live. Marquis' mansion was ruined like this, and it was ruined so quickly. This was something that Zhao Shiran didn't expect when she married into the Marquis' mansion. Seeing her daughter crying, Madame Zhao hurriedly comforted her. It's mother's fault. Mother was too anxious. Your father didn't do his job well and now he has no choice but to rely on you. He's afraid that if the emperor finds out about this, not only will he lose his life, but our entire household will also lose their lives. Your father has no other choice. Speaking of this, Madame Zhao cried. Shiran, you have suffered. There are so many troubles in the Marquis' mansion, and you have suffered. If I had known this, I wouldn't have let you marry into the Marquis' mansion. It would have been better if I didn't listen to your father and son's ideas. Chapter 1082. Remember in 1 second, 800 mail sign /say net wonderful pop-up window free reading. Thinking of these things, Madame Zhao also felt sad. If it weren't for Master, her daughter wouldn't have to make so much effort. Her daughter had grown up in front of her. She had been smart since she was a child, and she was better than her son. Master had repeatedly said that it would be good if Shiran was a son. But now her daughter was trapped in the mud of Marquis Xing's mansion. She couldn't get out of it even if she wanted to. Seeing Madame Zhao crying, Zhao Shiran calmed down, put away his grievances, and comforted her in a low voice, "Mother, don't be sad. It has come to this, and we can plan slowly. If those words are in the mansion, I think it is most likely to be in my father-in-law's study, and Hua An doesn't know it." She had searched Xiao Hua An's house and the study several times, and asked Xiao Hua An about it openly and secretly. Every time she talked about this kind of thing, Xiao Hua An was very confused. As a daughter-in-law, you can't search your father-in-law's place at will. Madame Zhao wiped her tears and frowned. Although Marquis Xing's mansion had declined so fast, the rules of aristocratic families still existed. It was outrageous for a daughter-in-law to go to her father-in-law's place to rummage through things, and it would arouse suspicion. If there were any rumors, the daughter-in-law would be too ashamed to live to see others. "Mother, there might not be a chance in the past, but now there is a chance. I'm in charge of this mansion. Old Madam of the Inner Court is not here, and Madam is also locked up. The third branch is not in charge. As long as we don't provoke them, they won't say anything." Zhao Shiran calmed down and said. It was indeed a good chance, but even if it was a good chance, it was not easy to get it. As a daughter-in-law, she should not search Xiao Jing's place. "Recently, Mother, I feel that there is something wrong with my father-in-law." Zhao Shiran said thoughtfully. "What's wrong?" Madame Zhao was shocked. She looked around and asked in a low voice. "Actually, I don't know if it's really abnormal. I've sent people to keep an eye on Eunuch's courtyard. These days, Eunuch has been spending a lot more time in the courtyard. In the past, when there was no one piling up junk, there would occasionally be lights. Although the flashing time was not long, it was as if someone was looking for junk. But one can't keep looking for junk, especially when Eunuch is in the residence." Zhao Shiran said. Since she was suspecting Xiao Jing, of course people would pay special attention to her. In the past, she couldn't. Now that the people of Marquis Xing's mansion were hesitant, it was not so difficult for her to send her trusted subordinates to check it out. She was now in charge of the inner courtyard. Of the 2 layers of mother-in-law above her, one was not in the manor, and the other was locked up. Now she was in charge of the household, and all the servants were fawning over her. "Mother, go back and tell father that Princess Chen collects calligraphy and paintings by accident. If father is worried, Mother, don't you have a relationship with Rui and Great Elder Princess? It's okay to inquire about it occasionally, but you can't talk too much. Father will also keep an eye on things outside, and I will deal with the affairs of Marquis Xing's mansion carefully." Seeing that Madame Zhao was still in a panic, Yu Shiran summed up. "Okay, we can only do this now. Be careful." Madame Zhao wiped the corners of her eyes and nodded heavily. She looked up at Zhao Shiran and felt very distressed. "You are injured this time. Don't be careless and take good care of yourself. Madame Jiang is vicious. It's better to lock her up and never see anyone again." Madame Zhao wished that Madame Jiang was dead. Only when she was dead could she take revenge for her daughter. "Mother, don't worry. I will deal with it," Zhao Shiran said softly. The mother and daughter talked for a while, and then Madame Zhao got up and left. She came here today to tell Zhao Shiran the news that Princess Chen collected calligraphy and paintings. Since Zhao Shiran was also not clear about it, she had to go back and tell her master about it. Seeing Madame Zhao leave, Zhao Shiran sat down with a heavy face. She didn't finish her words to Madame Zhao just now. How could she enter her father-in-law's courtyard at will? Even if she found something unusual, she had no right to go in and find it. What happened that year was complicated. Her father only found a part of it, and then based on this part, he concluded that the thing was in Marquis Xing's mansion and should be in Xiao Jing's hands. Marquis Xing's mansion had been in trouble before, but in the end, nothing serious happened. It must be that Xiao Jing took out something and sent it to someone, so they got help. Of course, those descendants of the royal family didn't care about money the most. If they cared about loyalty, Duke Xing's mansion in the past would definitely be favored by those people. But now Marquis Xing's mansion had declined, so no one was willing to help. So they must have sent something that could attract those people. This thing was very likely to be the thing that her father had been looking for. Because of the loss of this thing, her father had been trembling with fear for so many years, for fear that something would go wrong. At that time, the former heir of Duke Xing entrusted him with the task and asked him to find it. Unexpectedly, he was deceived by the former heir of Duke Xing. After that, it was gone. This thing was entrusted to her father by the former emperor before his death. But later, when the emperor ascended to the throne, her father didn't dare to act rashly. It seemed that those who knew this thing at that time had all died later. Her father thought that this thing was over. She just needed to hide it carefully and wait for the future. It was unknown where the former heir of Duke Xing got the news and went to Zhao's mansion to threaten and entice her father. Her father had to tell the former heir of Duke Xing about it, and then the former heir of Duke Xing disappeared in the vast crowd. It was said that he fell out with his family and left with Infanta Qinghua. After leaving, he never came back. Minister Zhao was on tenterhooks every day. He was afraid that this thing would make trouble and that Xiao Jiang would find those things and present them to the emperor. The only way was to find these things and present them to the emperor to make up for his mistake. Xiao Jiang was dead. The news from Minister Zhao was that Xiao Jiang was probably killed by Xiao Jing. At that time, Xiao Jing was also at the border. Later, it was said that Xiao Jiang had an accident and his widow, Infanta Qinghua, went crazy when she brought her back to the capital. After giving birth to a son, she died not long after. There seemed to be no way to investigate this matter. A young child didn't know anything. Xiao Jiang and his wife who knew this were all dead. Originally, Minister Zhao kept a close eye on Xiao Jing. He thought that it was Xiao Jing. Later, Xiao Zhang's daughter, Xiao Wanru, appeared, and Minister Zhao had a new suspect. This was also the reason why Zhao Shiran married into Marquis Xing's mansion in a hurry. At first, they just kept Marquis Xing's mansion in suspense. After Xiao Wanru came down from the Yuhui nunnery and returned to Marquis Xing's mansion, Zhao's mansion agreed to marry their daughter. Xiao Wanru's identity at that time could not be seen by outsiders. However, things changed too fast, and Minister Zhao and Zhao Shiran didn't have time to deal with it. Now things had come to this point. Zhao Shiran, who had married into Marquis Xing's mansion and thought that she could easily find out the truth and find what her father needed, couldn't help but doubt her ability. First Grandma, old maid Han has something to report to you. Qiu Yu, her personal maid, reported in the corridor. Let her in. Zhao Shiran restrained her thoughts and said gently. Qiu Yu lifted the curtain and came in. She was one of Zhao Shiran's two dowry maids, and the other one was Qiu Yan. Both of them were Zhao Shiran's trusted maids. Now they were helping her to deal with the affairs of Marquis Xing's mansion. Behind her was an old maid in her 50s. She was very thin, and her eyes were rolling around. She looked very smart. When she entered, she did not dare to be presumptuous. She hurriedly saluted and said, "Greetings, First Grandma." "No need." Zhao Shiran waved her hand. This was the trusted maid she received in Marquis Xing's mansion. In the past, she was in charge of flowers and trees. She was in charge of the large area of flowers and trees outside Xiao Jing's courtyard, so it was convenient for her to go in and out there. "First Grandmother, I saw the lights in the room turn on again last night. There seemed to be more than one figure, but I couldn't see clearly. After that, the lights went off. I stared at that place until midnight. Then, I almost fell asleep. Suddenly, I heard a loud voice. It was so loud that I was startled. When I looked over there, the lights flickered again. After that, there was no more sound." Old maid Han reported. She didn't look very energetic at this moment. Her eyes were red, as if she had stayed up all night. "Well, you've worked hard. Go down and get the reward later. Continue to keep an eye on that place in the future." Zhao Shiran nodded and said. "Thank you, First Grandma." "Thank you, first grandma. I will definitely do it. Old maid Han said gratefully. After Chiu Yu took her away and rewarded her, she returned to the room. Seeing Zhao Shiran sitting there with a gloomy face, she hurried to bow to her and said, "First grandma. How is the first young master?" Zhao Shiran asked. She had sent Chiu Yu to Shaohua and study to ask if there was anything he needed. The first young master said he didn't need anything. He just read in the study and asked first grandma not to worry about him, Chiu Yu said. She thought the first young master was a good man. At this time, he still wanted to study wholeheartedly and wanted to give the first grandma a chance to be conferred the title of honorary princess. After his leg was injured, Xiaohua and was depressed for a period of time. But then he cheered up and wanted to make a name for himself by studying. He said that he had wasted so many years and didn't think about making a future by studying. Now that he didn't have the title of heir of Duke Xing, he could study peacefully with his leg broken. Zhao Shiran sighed softly. Hearing Xiao Hua's words, she felt a little comforted. Xiao Hua was talented and learned, but he didn't want to make a name for himself in the imperial examination. If he really wanted to study for the title of heir of Duke Xing, he would definitely make a name for himself. However, Xiao Hua was satisfied with the title of heir of Duke Xing, but she was not. Why did Xiao Yuanhao, who was so young and not close to Marquis Xing's mansion, get the title? Since she married into Marquis Xing's mansion, she had only seen Xiao Yuanhao a few times. He was obviously the grandson of Rui and great elder princess, but he had nothing to do with Marquis Xing's mansion. No matter how she looked at it, the title should belong to Hua then. Ask the first young master every day. If there is anything he likes, make it and send it to him immediately. Old maid Han also keeps an eye on him. If there is anything, ask her to report to me. Zhao Shiran ordered methodically. Things had to be done one by one. What her father had taught her was not only the means of the inner court. Compared with a woman who only knew how to fight for favor, she was more capable. If she were a man, she would behave the same way as Xiao Hua and she would appreciate Xiao Hua and more. Chapter 1083. After Xiao Wanru came back from Great Elder Princess's mansion, she immediately sent someone to invite the chief butler. After the chief butler sat down, she immediately told him what she had seen in Marquis Chingan's mansion and asked him to give her advice. While listening to Xiao Wanru's detailed description of the scene, the chief butler frowned and his face changed. When Xiao Wanru stopped, he asked anxiously, "Is it really the Empress Dowager's mother feeding medicine to her eldest son?" "It should be." The child was lying on the bed with a towel covering his forehead. His face was pale, and the medicine in the bowl was black. It didn't look like normal tea. Xiao Wanru thought for a while and said. At that time, she deliberately saw it clearly because she wanted to come back and tell the chief butler about it. Since the chief butler was a member of the imperial palace, he might know something. Compared with others, the chief butler was the most likely person to know this kind of thing. Even her grandmother only heard many things and couldn't take it seriously. What kind of bowl is it?" The chief butler's face turned pale, and his lips trembled twice. He lowered his voice and asked. Xiao Wanru really couldn't remember what the bowl looked like at the moment. At that time, her attention was not on the bowl. She just looked at the shape, behavior, and all the things and movements, but she ignored the bowl. Now she remembered that the pattern on the bowl was also very clear, but she just glanced at it and didn't pay attention to it. Seeing that Xiao Wanru couldn't answer for a while, the chief butler reminded her, "Is it a bowl with a red pattern on a white background, with a pattern of playing beads?" Even after so many years, the chief butler still felt his throat tighten and his back sweat when he mentioned this. Hearing his words, Xiao Wanru thought about it carefully and actually figured out some reasons. Yes, it's white background because it's more obvious. The red pattern is very conspicuous. I saw it at first sight. Is there a bead? Yes, there is. There is a bead, which is also very dazzling. Xiao Wanru recalled bit by bit. The chief butler put his hand on the table and almost fell down. Looking at several trusted servants in the room, he waved his hand and motioned them to leave. At this time, even if they were trusted servants, they couldn't listen to this kind of thing. Seeing the chief butler's solemnity, Xiao Wanru also waved her hand. Several trusted maids all left and closed the door slightly, leaving only Xiao Wanru in the room. The chief butler and Xiao Wanru. Chief butler, what's wrong? After everyone left, Xiao Wanru asked in a low voice. Princess, there are some things that I dare not say. I don't even know if they are true. It's just that the late empress was also there, so I followed her to take a look. The chief steward paused here and hesitated. He actually didn't want to mention this kind of thing. Or even if he wanted to, he would mention it to his master, not Wang Fei. However, his master was not in the capital right now. Wang Fei was smart. In addition, it was the Empress Dowager's birthday. If something really happened and Wang Fei didn't know anything, he was afraid that she would fall into someone's trap. Chief butler. Xiao Wanru urged in a low voice. Princess, it's really inconvenient for me to say anything, and I can't say everything. I'm afraid that Princess will guess something wrong. The head butler raised his head with a pale face. Don't worry, Chief Butler. I know the seriousness of the matter. It's not a small matter related to the Empress Dowager. Xiao Wanru said calmly. Of course, she knew that. She still had a lingering fear about what had happened in the last life. Even the Empress Dowager and the Empress were involved in it. How could it be a small matter? Even if she didn't know the details, she wouldn't act rashly, let alone tell others about it. Although Xiao Wanru looked nervous, her face was still calm. She didn't turn pale with fright because what she wanted to know was a secret in the palace. The chief butler let out a sigh of relief and said slowly, I really don't know what happened at that time. I only know that the late emperor was seriously ill and his condition was getting worse. The Imperial Institute of Medicine had sent someone to inform the late empress and the Empress Dowager. On that day, the Empress Dowager personally served the late emperor with medicine. Before the medicine was finished, the late emperor died. The medicine bowl rolled to my feet. Speaking of this, the chief butler couldn't go on. Even though many years had passed, he still remembered the scene clearly. No one had expected that the late emperor would suddenly die. Many people in the hall almost subconsciously looked at the Empress Dowager. Only he lowered his head because he noticed the medicine bowl at his feet. Later, these people were convicted of offending the emperor and died a violent death one by one. The whole country mourned the death of the late emperor. No one would care about the death of a few palace servants. The chief butler knew that he was fine. It was not only because he didn't look at the Empress Dowager at that time, which angered the Empress Dowager, but also because the former empress was protecting him in the palace, so he escaped the disaster and kept his life. He would bury this past deep in his heart after the death of the late emperor. He didn't expect that there would be a day when he would dig it out. His lips trembled a few times, and it took him a long time to calm down. Your Highness, this matter has passed. But since this painting has come out, it means that someone also knows what happened that day and wants to assassinate the Empress Dowager. The chief butler didn't continue, but Xiao Wanru understood. This was a direct accusation that the Empress Dowager murdered the late emperor. Things that she didn't understand before suddenly became clear because of the chief butler's words. The three children implied the three sons of the Empress Dowager. The sick eldest son, the favored second son, and the third son, who played alone. The eldest son was drinking medicine on the bed, and the second son came over. It seemed that the mother and the second son had a deep relationship, but it could also be understood that the mother and the second son murdered the eldest son together. The two of them leaned together to show that they were very close and dealt with the late emperor together. If this was the case, how could the Empress Dowager not be shocked and angry when she saw such a painting? Did the late emperor really have an accident because of this bowl of medicine? Xiao Wanru knew that she shouldn't ask this. Even if she wanted to ask, it should be Chu Luchen. But at this time, she swallowed and tried to look calmer. Her long eyelashes hid the panic at the bottom of her eyes. The Empress Dowager was the only elder who seemed to be really kind to Chu Luchen. She was wholeheartedly for Chu Liuchen's grandmother. If all this was hypocritical, how big a blow it would be to Chu Luchen. He had been alone and had abandoned himself for so many years. If he suffered such a blow again, she didn't know what would happen. Xiao Wanru was really flustered. The late emperor was seriously ill at that time, and the Imperial Institute of Medicine had already given an indication. At this time, the Empress Dowager wouldn't be so irrational. The chief butler answered with a livid face. He had hidden these words in his heart for so many years, and he was still very nervous to say them now. Xiao Wanru breathed a sigh of relief and squeezed the handkerchief in her hand hard. Feeling the dampness under her hand, she slowly felt relieved. Come on. She knew what the chief butler meant. As long as the Empress Dowager was not a fool, she would deal with the late emperor at this time and murder him. She didn't have much time left, so how could she murder the late emperor? Even if she didn't do anything, it would be a matter of a few days. Therefore, the Empress Dowager didn't murder the late emperor as implied in the painting. In other words, the Empress Dowager was sincere to Chu Luchen, and she didn't feel guilty for murdering his father. The Empress Dowager really loved Chu Liuchen's imperial grandmother. Chief Butler, were there anyone else present at that time? Xiao Wanru asked again, feeling relieved. The burden in her heart was much lighter. At that time, the Empress Dowager and the late Empress were present, as well as the late Emperor's trusted subordinates. Most of these people are dead. Even if they are not dead, I don't know where they are now. The chief butler calmed down the panic in his heart, composed himself, and spoke in a coherent way. Was the Empress there? Xiao Wanru asked again. This matter should have something to do with the Empress. Otherwise, the Empress wouldn't have been implicated later. The Empress wasn't there. At that time, the Empress was just a princess and didn't come to see the late Emperor, who was ill. The Emperor wasn't there either. He wasn't in the palace at that time. It was the Empress Dowager who invited him here. After the late Emperor died of illness, the Empress Dowager and the late Empress discussed it and went to invite the Emperor. When the Empress Dowager and the late Empress discussed it, I and the others left. The chief butler recalled for a while and said, "It happened so suddenly that no one expected it." That is to say, no one knows what the Empress Dowager and the late Empress said? Xiao Wanru said thoughtfully. Those words should be the key to deciding whether to pass the throne to Chu Luchen, who had just been born in swaddling clothes, or to his younger brother, who was in the prime of his life. It was up to them to decide. No one knows. Only the Empress Dowager and the late Empress Dowager were inside at that time, but this old servant felt that it happened very quickly, as if it was decided in just a few words, the chief butler said as he calmed down and recalled. The inheritance of the throne was decided in a few words. Xiao Wanru was stunned. Shouldn't she think about it carefully? Even if the late Empress didn't do it for herself, she had to fight for her son. How could she give the throne to the current emperor without any objection? This was simply too puzzling. Although a woman was soft, a mother was tough. Why didn't the late Empress fight for her son? In history, there were many emperors who were carried to the throne by their mothers when they were born. Why didn't the late Empress agree? Xiao Wanru always felt that there was something incomprehensible about the late Empress's matter. It seemed that something was not connected, so that some things were against common sense. Your Highness, if there is anyone who can dig out this kind of thing now, I think it is most likely to be the current Empress. After all, only she has the ability to dig out this kind of old thing now. There is someone behind the painting. Someone deliberately sent the painting to Marquis Chingan's mansion. If Marquis Chingan's mansion presents this painting to the Empress Dowager in front of the officials, something will definitely happen. The chief butler had lived in the palace for a long time and had very sharp eyes. After thinking about it, he immediately thought of the accident in it and immediately reminded Xiao Wanru. If the painting was presented to the imperial court, something big would definitely happen. Chapter 1084. Xiao Wanru's face darkened, and her eyes were deep. She understood what the butler meant. Others might not understand the picture presented to the imperial court, but how could the Empress Dowager not understand it? She was reminded of the past, and it was even a picture presented by her own brother. The Empress Dowager would not be able to bear it for a while and would definitely faint, and then she would fall seriously ill. The Emperor could also understand the painting. Even if he was not there at that time, he must have asked about it later, so he also knew about it. Seeing that the Empress Dowager couldn't bear it and fell ill, he had no place to vent his anger. Because the painting was presented by Marquis Chingen's mansion, and it was a kind gesture from Marquis Chingen, who was the Emperor's uncle. The Emperor couldn't do anything to Marquis Chingen when the Empress Dowager was ill, so the Emperor didn't do anything to Marquis Chingen, who presented the painting. It seemed to be silent, as if nothing had happened. There should be some rumors in the imperial palace that the Empress Dowager murdered the late emperor, so the Empress Dowager's health became worse and worse. Later, she was bedridden and finally died of sadness. All of this implied that the Empress was the mastermind behind it. If there were still people in the imperial palace who knew what had happened in the past, the emperor was the most suspicious one. If there were still people in the imperial palace who wanted to deal with the Empress Dowager, it was really the Empress. After dealing with the Empress Dowager, the Empress was the most powerful person in the imperial palace. Therefore, the emperor was furious and locked up the Empress. He might even want to abolish the Empress. That was why Prince Zhou rebelled later. It could be said that Prince Zhou would not benefit from the whole thing. So it should be someone else who did it, not the Empress and Prince Zhou. Was it Chu Liuyue's mother, concubine De, or Prince Cheng, who was outside the imperial palace? Xiao Wanru's brain worked rapidly. At present, she was most suspicious of these two people. In the last life, Chu Liyue was finally defeated. Xiao Wanru didn't know why, and she had no memory of what happened to Prince Cheng. She reached out and rubbed between her eyebrows. In the last life, she was far away from the center of power, so she didn't know many things. Besides, there were some missing memories, so she really didn't know the specific things. Your Highness, be careful. Seeing that she was silent, the head butler reminded her. Since the princess had also seen the painting, she would definitely be involved. Since Wang Ye was not in the Fu, he must not let anything happen to Wang Fei. This was what Wang Ye had repeatedly told him before he left. Wang Fei, when Wang Yi left, he said that if the palace became suspicious of Wang Fei, you should wear the natural warm jade that Wang Yi gave you that year. The head butler reminded. Xiao Wanru naturally remembered the natural warm jade pendant. It was this jade pendant that the Empress Dowager temporarily agreed to marry Chu Luchen. Later, she exchanged this jade pendant with another jade pendant and gave it to Chu Luchen. Chu Luchen had been wearing it all the time. Before leaving the capital city, Chu Luchen deliberately left this jade pendant to her. He said with a smile that reminded her of him when she saw it. It turned out that he had prepared it for her a long time ago. She felt warm in her heart. She bit her lip and nodded. Sure enough, someone from the palace quickly came to summon her. The Empress Dowager summoned her to the palace. Xiao Wanru dressed up a little, put on the jade pendant left by Chu Luchen, and followed the summoned servant to the Empress Dowager's palace of benevolent peace. There was no one else in the hall, and the Empress Dowager was sitting high on the chair. Xiao Wanru had sharp eyes and saw a wet spot on the ground. Although it had been cleaned up, it could still be seen that it should have been wet just now. In the far corner, there was a piece of broken porcelain that had not been cleaned up in time. It seemed that Marquis Chingen had been here and presented the painting to the Empress Dowager. Fortunately, there was no one else here, and the Empress Dowager didn't lose face in public. She looked calm at this time. Xiao Wanru had no choice but to ask Marquis Chingen to present the painting at this time. If she presented the painting in front of the emperor's officials at the birthday banquet, it would really be a big deal. But now, she hated the Empress Dowager because of Nanny Wei, and the Empress Dowager didn't like her at all at this time, so it was a little difficult. She subconsciously pressed the jade pendant at the corner of her skirt and calmed down. Even though it was difficult for her to get through this, Chu Luchen had already prepared something to protect himself. She took 2 steps forward and knelt down respectfully in front of the Empress Dowager. Imperial Grandmother. The Empress Dowager's eyes fell on her coldly. She didn't let her get up and carefully looked at her. Finally, her eyes moved down and fell on the jade pendant hanging on her waist. Only then did her face ease a little. This jade pendant was given to Chu Luchen by her, so how could she not recognize it? This child had sent the jade pendant to Xiao Wanru again and again, which really made her unhappy. But no matter how unhappy she was, she thought that Chu Luchen had only cared about Xiao Wanru in front of her for so many years. Even though Empress Dowager was unhappy, she still suppressed her anger at this time. Get up. The Empress Dowager said lightly. Of course, if it was proved that Xiao Wanru really had ulterior motives, she would not show mercy. But before that, she had to keep calm and not convict Xiao Wanru with one-sided words. After all, what happened at that time had nothing to do with Xiao Wanru. Even Rui and Great Elder Princess couldn't know anything. Everything seemed to have nothing to do with Xiao Wanru. Xiao Wanru answered and stood up. I heard that you went to Marquis Chingan's mansion before. The Empress Dowager asked coldly. Yes, I went to Marquis Chingan's mansion and saw a painting of Marquis Qingzhen. It was very similar to the one prepared by me, but it was more satisfactory than yours. I felt ashamed of my inferiority, so I wanted to see other masters' techniques and make up for it. Xiao Wanru lowered her head and said softly without any hesitation. Of course, the purpose of collecting paintings outside and looking for some famous masters for reference was to make the painting she prepared more perfect. Xiao Wanru originally wanted to deal with the Empress Dowager's questions, but she didn't expect that she would inadvertently cause trouble and attract the attention of Zhao Shiran and Minister Zhao's mansion. Seeing that she answered smoothly without any panic, the Empress Dowager nodded secretly. It seemed that this matter really had nothing to do with her. How did you know that there was such a painting in Marquis Chingan's mansion? Why did you bring one of your paintings at that time? The Empress Dowager asked again. She suspected Xiao Wanru because Xiao Wanru could immediately take the painting out at that time. When I went to my maternal grandmother's residence, I brought the painting with me. Originally, I wanted to ask Marchioness Qingzhen to correct it. Marchioness Qingzhen has the closest relationship with Imperial Grandmother, so she must know Imperial Grandmother's preferences. The painting hasn't been finalized yet, so it can be slightly corrected. Xiao Wanru explained unhurriedly, as if she didn't know that the Empress Dowager was staring at her with scrutiny. With her. The matter of going to the Marquis Chingan's residence had been decided a long time ago. The invitation card had also been sent over first. Once the painting was ready, it would be acceptable. Marchioness Qing'an was the Empress Dowager's sister-in-law, so it was normal for her to be closer to her sister-in-law. With this explanation, the matter that Xiao Wanru took the paintings to Marquis Chingan's mansion could be explained. There was no incongruity in the whole process. Xiao Wanru's expression was also very natural and graceful, not seeming to be guilty and nervous after being caught. How long have you been preparing your painting? The Empress Dowager looked a little relaxed. Although she had a problem with Xiao Wanru, it could not be the evidence that Xiao Wanru was plotting something. Yes, I've been preparing it for a long time. When I was in the Yuhui nunnery, I prepared maple leaves. With a little shyness on her face, Xiao Wanru lowered her head and said, I heard from Prince Chen that the Empress Dowager likes maple leaves. Beautiful maple leaves were also very beautiful when collected. Some people loved flowers, so naturally, there were also people who loved maple leaves. Of course, she had to give gifts to the Empress Dowager. When I was in the Yuhui nunnery, something happened between me and Xiao Baolin. At that time, there were a lot of maple leaves in the maple forest, so I picked a lot of them. Later, I picked a few more times before I got these good ones. Xiao Wanru explained again. Something did happen in the maple forest of the Yuhui nunnery. Xiao Yenru plotted against her once. Since the Empress Dowager wanted her to marry Chu Luchen, she also paid attention to some things and had heard about it. At that time, Nanny Wei didn't have any malice toward Xiao Wanru, and she knew that Prince Qin seemed to care about Xiao Wanru, so she was partial to Xiao Wanru. Thinking of Xiao Baolin, the Empress Dowager frowned and was very unhappy. At that time, it seemed that Xiao Baolin had a relationship with Commandery Prince Qing. It seemed that the two of them had an ambiguous relationship in the maple forest. At the thought of the fact that Xiao Baolin was her son's woman, although she had been in the cold palace all the time, the Empress Dowager also felt sick of her. Since Xiao Wanru's words came to this point, it was indeed well-founded and she had indeed prepared it a long time ago. She didn't deliberately make such a painting after knowing something. Sit down. She pointed to the chair on the side and motioned for Xiao Wanru to sit down. Xiao Wanru answered softly, walked to the chair and sat down. She looked natural, without relaxing after being nervous, nor did she show any abnormality. It seemed that she really didn't know anything. The Empress Dowager was secretly sure that it had nothing to do with Xiao Wanru, so it couldn't be her. Since it wasn't her, the Empress Dowager stopped asking her about the maple leaves and changed the topic. What's the matter about the butterfly clothing shop you mentioned before? Does that female shopkeeper really want to give the shop to you? Does she want you to make money because she doesn't know how to make money herself? If it weren't for the fact that the previous matter had cleared up all her doubts, the Empress Dowager wouldn't have asked such a small matter. Xiao Wanru really breathed a sigh of relief at this time and knew that she had escaped this time, but she didn't show it on her face. She was still as calm as water. She raised her head and reported, Imperial Grandmother, there is an inside story in this matter, and it's related to Nanny Wei. I don't know what to say. No matter how Nanny Wei slandered the Empress Dowager or how she and Wei Dahai plotted against her, it was a rare good opportunity now. Chapter 1085. Remember in 1 second, 800 mail sign /say net. What she had said before was too secretive. Even Nanny Wei didn't want her to know. What she had said before was too secretive. Even Nanny Wei didn't want Empress Dowager Queen to know. In fact, it didn't matter whether she believed it or not. When she told the chief butler about this kind of thing, she also sent Yu Jie and the others out. It was not good for them to know more about this kind of thing. The Empress Dowager should do the same. It could be seen that the Empress Dowager trusted Nanny Wei very much. Now when she talked about Nanny Wei, she should be more careful. It has something to do with Nanny Wei. How can it have something to do with Nanny Wei? The Empress Dowager asked. Looking at her appearance, she knew that she had attracted the Empress Dowager's attention. Originally, the Empress Dowager just asked this question. The maple leaf painting had nothing to do with Xiao Wanru, so she mentioned it casually. Unexpectedly, it had something to do with Nanny Wei. The Empress Dowager couldn't help paying attention to it. That heartless man actually has something to do with Nanny Wei. I just found out about it. The shopkeeper said today that someone pretended to be her and conspired with Lord Wei to deceive Nanny Wei, Xiao Wanru said. He explained the cause and effect of the matter in detail. She said that Nanny Wei saw Wei Dahai coming and took a female customer out of her shop. The female customer looked a little like her and even dressed like her, so the shop assistants noticed it. After that, Wei Dahai entered the door and led the female customer away, and a shop assistant followed him. When passing by the carriage, he heard Wei Dahai introduce the woman to the people in the carriage as the shopkeeper of Butterfly Clothing Shop. He also called the person in the carriage aunt and said that she was a servant of the Empress Dowager. The shop assistant didn't hear it clearly and didn't understand it, so he went to report it to the shopkeeper. The shopkeeper felt that something was wrong and immediately reported it to Xiao Wanru. Someone pretended to be the shopkeeper of Butterfly Clothing Shop and made Nanny Wei misunderstand. The Empress Dowager's face changed and she immediately believed it. She trusted Nanny Wei very much. If Xiao Wanru said that Nanny Wei conspired with her, the Empress Dowager would definitely not believe it. But if Wei Dahai deceived Nanny Wei, the Empress Dowager would immediately believe it. Xiao Wanru's words were too true, and the expression on her face was also very calm, without any feeling of guilt. Imperial Grandmother, if you don't believe me, you can check it out. I heard from the shopkeeper that the woman is the wet nurse of Lord Wei's mistress, who is about the same age as the shopkeeper. Xiao Wanru added another blow. Let the Empress Dowager investigate it herself. Since Mammy Wei was involved in this matter, the Empress Dowager would definitely not ask her to do the next task. As long as it was not her, it would be easy to find out the truth. Besides, there was also the matter of Wei Da's overseas family. When she was in front of Nanny Wei, she hid a lot of things and didn't mention Wei Dahai's name. Now that Nanny Wei wasn't here, she didn't stand on ceremony and directly addressed him as Master Wei. Lord Wei, Nanny Wei, and so many evidences to check, so the Empress Dowager immediately believed it. As soon as he believed it, his face changed drastically. She remembered the contract she had seen before. If it was true, the contract was fake. How could Xiao Wanru lose the contract? Did it mean that Nanny Wei was disloyal to her and deliberately put this matter in front of her to make up her misunderstanding? When she came back from outside the palace that day, the matter that Nanny Wei helped the Empress Dowager choose the women from aristocratic families was right in front of her. In the past, when she encountered this kind of thing, Nanny Wei would persuade her to let Chen choose by himself. Originally, it was he who liked them, so she didn't have to do it again, lest Chen felt uncomfortable. That day, Nanny Wei not only didn't persuade her, but also suggested that she should choose a few noble ladies to marry into Prince Chen's mansion, saying that it could guarantee Prince Chen's future wealth. This idea was the same as her idea at the beginning, but it didn't fit the current situation. Although the Empress Dowager disliked Xiao Wanru because of the matter of butterfly clothing shop, she didn't really want Xiao Wanzhong to step down. If the noble ladies married into the mansion, the whole Prince Chen's mansion would be in a mess. The Empress Dowager didn't think so at that time. She even nodded after hearing Nanny Wei's words. Now that she calmed down, she immediately found the problem. Could it be that Nanny Wei was really disloyal to her? Impossible, this was absolutely impossible. The master and the servant had been together for so long. How could they have disloyalty at this time? Nanny Wei must have been deceived by Wei Dahai. Thinking of this, she suppressed the discomfort in her heart and said, "Go back first. I'll talk about it after I check it out." "Yes, thank you, Imperial Grandmother." Xiao Wanru stood up and bowed respectfully to the Empress Dowager. She turned around and was about to leave, but was suddenly stopped by the Empress Dowager. "I seem to have heard of the name Wei Dahai. Could it be that there is something else about him?" "I don't know." Xiao Wanru shook her head, with her bright watery eyes full of doubt. Did she really not know? The Empress Dowager looked at her and waved her hand, signaling her to leave. Xiao Wanru retreated to the door as she was told. Seeing Nanny Wei standing at the door, she nodded to her with a smile and was about to leave. "Greetings, Princess Chen." Nanny Wei took the initiative to speak. Xiao Wanru stopped and asked, "Nanny Wei, what's the matter?" Nanny Wei looked Xiao Wanru up and down and didn't find anything wrong with her. She also had doubts in her heart. Even Marquis Chen Zhen was smashed by the Empress Dowager. Why was nothing wrong with Princess Chen? I want to ask if the Empress Dowager is angry. Imperial Grandmother asked me some questions. How could she be angry? Xiao Wanru looked at Nanny Wei calmly and said. Nanny Wei became more and more confused. When it happened, she happened to be outside. She heard that the Empress Dowager took action and Marquis Chen Zhen was smashed by a teacup and went back in embarrassment. She wanted to go in to comfort the Empress Dowager, but she was told by the Empress Dowager that no one was allowed to go in and let her be quiet. After that, Xiao Wanru came. Now she seemed to be fine, which really surprised Nanny Wei. Marquis Chen Zhen was the biological brother of the Empress Dowager. Although he was not capable, the Empress Dowager had always been very good to her brother. Why was Marquis Chen Zhen in trouble while Princess Chen was fine? Before, the Empress Dowager obviously had a bad impression of Prince Chen and even wanted to give Prince Chen's mansion concubine and concubine. Nanny Wei had a bad feeling in her heart, so she stopped Xiao Wanru. I made a mistake. Princess Chen, please. Seeing that she couldn't get anything out of her, Nanny Wei retreated to the side, stretched out her hand, and said respectfully. After coming back, Nanny Wei also reflected on her behavior for what she had done in Prince Chen's mansion before. At that time, she felt that she was too impatient. How could she arouse the vigilance of Princess Chen? She should have done what she should have done. At present, Nanny Wei had returned to normal in front of others. Although she was the Empress Dowager's personal maid, she had always been respectful to the people of the royal family in front of others. Xiao Wanru smiled slightly. With a smile, he turned around and left. Nanny Wei stood behind her and watched her go down the high steps. She frowned tightly and felt uneasy. In the past, the Empress Dowager would tell her immediately if anything happened. Why did she not even allow her to go in now? What happened? The Empress Dowager didn't tell Nanny Wei about it. At present, what she cared about most was the maple leaf. She asked someone to invite the Emperor over, and the mother and son also asked their attendants to leave. The Empress Dowager put the painting brought by Marquis Qingzhen on the table, looked at the Emperor, and said, "Your Majesty, look at this painting." The Emperor didn't know what had happened. Looking at his mother's serious look, he took the painting in confusion and unfolded it. His face immediately changed. He slapped the table heavily and said sternly, "Where did this come from?" The Empress Dowager sighed and said with a wry smile, "It was Marquis Qingzhen." The Emperor choked for a moment. If it was someone else, he would definitely think that the person was disloyal to the Empress Dowager and himself. But if it was Marquis Qingzhen, the Emperor could guarantee that this good and useless uncle would not do such a thing. The Empress Dowager was Marquis Qing'an's sister. If his sister was not good, how could he be good? The Emperor took a deep breath and said with a gloomy face, "Who plotted against Marquis Qingzhen again?" This uncle was really useless. He was cheated from time to time. Even if the Emperor knew about some things about money, he would let him go. Now he was more and more useless. He even dared to send this kind of painting to the Empress Dowager. Originally, he planned to present it to me in front of the officials. The Empress Dowager breathed a sigh of relief. At least the current situation was good. He didn't embarrass himself in front of the officials and the Emperor. Marquis Qingzhen is getting more and more mature. He even dared to do this kind of thing. Why didn't he do it later? The Emperor said angrily. He had decided in his heart that it was better for Marquis Qingzhen not to do anything. He also didn't want to do anything in the Ministry of Internal Affairs. He was so old, and the older he got, the more muddle-headed he would be. It was better for him to stay at home and not cause any new trouble. It was Princess Chen. Coincidentally, Princess Chen wanted to ask me what I like. She brought a painting of maple leaf she made to Marquis Qing'an's mansion. Marquis Qing'an's wife felt that the paintings in her mansion were not as good as Princess Chen's, so she asked Marquis Qingzhen to present the painting to me first. She said that it was a gift from Marquis Qingzhen. The Empress Dowager was angry, but there was nothing she could do. Her eldest brother did have good intentions, but he didn't have any brains. He didn't carefully appreciate the painting and dared to decide to present it in front of the officials. "Mother, don't worry. I will investigate the people around Marquis Qingzhen. I will definitely pull out the person behind the scenes. I will not let him go easily." The Emperor pushed the painting. He already had a plan in his heart. This matter was related to the palace. The Empress Dowager, Concubine Da, and several other high-ranking concubines might have something to do with it. Of course, it was most likely to be the Empress, followed by Concubine Da. Both of them had adult princes. "Don't beat the grass and alert the snake." The Empress Dowager nodded and warned. "Mother, don't worry. I will be careful." The Emperor nodded. He thought for a while and said, "Mother, you'd better take a look at Princess Chen's painting first, in case something happens again." With Marquis Qingzhen as an example, the Emperor was really afraid that Princess Chen was not sensible, so he also sent a painting of this type. Chapter 1086. Nanny Wei had been walking around outside the palace gate for many times. She felt uneasy. She pretended to look at the palace gate and the sky. She was in a panic. What did Princess Chen say to the Empress Dowager? Why did even the Emperor come? What happened that she didn't know? What was the current situation? The Empress Dowager always asked her to serve the Empress Dowager. What was going on now? Was it about Wei Dahai? Thinking of this, Nanny Wei became more and more flustered and felt guilty. She certainly knew that the contract was fake. It was her nephew who conspired with her. It was her nephew who asked someone to send the contract to the Imperial Palace and throw it in that place, so that she could accompany the Empress Dowager to see it. If the Empress Dowager found out about this, she would definitely be angry. Nanny Wei's face turned blue. She took a deep breath and told herself not to panic. Maybe it was not what she guessed. Even if the Empress Dowager was angry about this kind of thing, she would not go to the Emperor, let alone the Emperor. She repeatedly told herself not to scare herself. It couldn't be that thing. It couldn't be that thing. The palace gate was heavily opened. The Emperor in a bright yellow brocade robe appeared outside the palace gate. He looked at the people at the palace gate with his hands behind his back. Finally, his eyes fell on Nanny Wei. Nanny Wei, my mother is inside. You go to serve her. After saying that, he led the palace attendants at the door and strode out. Nanny Wei respectfully agreed. After the Emperor left, she straightened up, calmed down her flustered mind, and walked into the hall. In the hall, the Empress Dowager was still sitting with a sullen face. Hearing the voice, she looked up at Nanny Wei without a trace of smile on her face. Nanny Wei couldn't help trembling in her heart. Empress. Empress Dowager. Go to ask concubine to come here. The Empress Dowager said coldly. Empress Dowager, what happened? Concubine Da has always been filial to you. Nanny Wei said carefully. She had been with the Empress Dowager for many years. She knew that although Concubine Da was not the Empress, she was liked by the Empress Dowager. Did I say that Concubine Da is not filial? The Empress Dowager looked at Nanny Wei coldly and said with a distant look, You have followed me into the palace for so many years and know a lot of ups and downs in the palace. You should know that there is a kind of people who can't live long in the palace, right? Who is it? Nanny Wei's gums were knotted. A man who betrays his master and talks too much, Empress Dowager said coldly. Nanny Wei's back was covered with cold sweat. She lowered her head in panic and gritted her teeth. After calming herself down, she replied, I understand. I'll go and invite Concubine Da over now. No matter what, Concubine Da's matter had nothing to do with him. Empress Dowager waved her hand and said, You can leave now. In the future, say what you should say and don't say what you shouldn't say. She was not in the mood to deal with Nanny Wei's matter. Compared to Marquis Chingan's matter, Nanny Wei's matter was just a small matter. After discussing with the Emperor, she felt that Concubine Da and the Empress were the most likely suspects. They couldn't be interrogated together, otherwise they might be discovered. Empress Dowager and the Emperor would interrogate one by one to see who was most likely to be the person behind this matter. Concubine Da came quickly. After coming in, she bowed respectfully to the Empress Dowager and then asked about the Empress Dowager's health. She was very respected in front of the Empress Dowager and was the head of the 4 concubines. The reason why she gave birth to the Emperor's eldest son was not without reason. After talking with Concubine Da for a while, the Empress Dowager asked Concubine Da to go back and sat alone in the main hall to ponder. She didn't want to think about what happened in the past. How could she not feel sad when she saw her son die in front of her? In fact, the Empress Dowager always had a thought in her heart. She thought that her eldest son died of a normal illness. Otherwise, why did he suddenly die in the middle of taking medicine? The imperial physician had always said that it was not good and that there was no hope, but he didn't say that he died in a few days. He died suddenly and didn't even say a word. Was it really that his body couldn't bear it? Or was there another accident? But at that time, the Empress Dowager also secretly sent people to investigate, but nothing was found. Now it was turned out again and vaguely implicated herself. Who did it? This person was very familiar with the palace. The news from the palace spread silently, and many people who knew the news were secretly shocked. First, Marquis Qingzhen was scolded and smashed by the Empress Dowager. Then the Emperor and Empress Dowager summoned the Empress and concubine respectively. It was said that the Emperor's scolding could be heard in the Emperor's imperial study. When concubine came out of the Empress Dowager's palace, she was also worried and almost fell when she walked. How could it be possible that it was because of a painting of Marquis Qingzhen? How much power did a painting have to be able to cause such a big commotion? Although Marquis Qingzhen was useless, the Empress Dowager had always respected this elder brother of hers. Even if she was unhappy, she would not throw a teacup at Marquis Qingzhen. Some people who saw it said that when Marquis Qingzhen left the palace, the blood on his forehead had not been wiped clean and he looked extremely wretched. This must be a big thing caused by Marquis Qingzhen. With Marquis Qingzhen's character, he must have been deceived by someone. He went to the Empress Dowager to speak to her and annoyed her, which caused this disaster. After that, Marquis Qingzhen was removed from his position in the Ministry of Internal Affairs. It could be seen that he really annoyed the Empress Dowager and the Emperor. Then there was the matter of the Empress and concubine Da. Many people secretly guessed that this kind of thing and this kind of action had something to do with the selection of an heir. Before the matter of the crown prince was discussed in the court, many officials thought that it was not good for the country if there was no heir. They asked the emperor to make a decision as soon as possible so that the officials would not panic. Thinking of this, it made some sense. There were so many s in the palace. Why didn't they ask others but only the empress and concubine to investigate? It must be because of Prince Yu and Prince Shou. As for Prince Xian, he was still young and was not valued by the Empress Dowager and the Emperor. Recently, it was said that he was not feeling well and hadn't appeared in public for a long time. Even if concubine Ming in the palace had some ideas, so what? Compared with Prince Yu and Prince Shou, Prince Xian was really not competitive. Were they going to determine the position of the Eastern Palace? Everyone was anxious and uneasy about who it was. They always felt that the water was very deep. Everyone had to deal with it carefully. They were all waiting for the final news from the palace. In the end, which prince did the Emperor and the Empress Dowager favor to determine the position of the Eastern Palace and become the future crown prince? This was a big matter that concerned the next few decades. The change of the situation in the court could also lead to a big disaster. In the Empress's Fengyi Palace, the Empress slammed her hand on the table and gritted her teeth angrily. "Your Highness, don't be angry." Her trusted nanny beside her persuaded in a low voice. "How can I not be angry? How would I know what happened in the past? I used some things to deliberately stir up trouble in the palace. How would I know what happened in the past? I was not there at that time." The Empress was very angry. For the Empress, she was inexplicably reprimanded by the Emperor and even punished to kneel. For the Empress, she lost her face. In the future, how could she be the mother of the world and tidy up the harem? She was sitting peacefully in the Fengyi Palace, but caused such a big disaster. She was angry and annoyed. She felt that a breath was stuck in her heart. She couldn't swallow it or spit it out. She had been the mother of the world for so long and had only suffered losses in the hands of one person. But she had never been as humiliated as she was today. The most important thing was that she still didn't know what had happened. How could she be reprimanded? "Your Highness, this matter was not done by you, then it may be concubine Da. His Highness Prince Yu has always been resourceful. Concubine Da also has a plan. Now you and concubine Da have been called for questioning, but only you are reprimanded. It can be seen that concubine Da has long been prepared." The Empress's personal nanny suggested. The Empress listened and nodded repeatedly. She was plotted against because she didn't know anything. Since the Emperor and the Empress Dowager had called her and concubine Da over, it could be seen that concubine Da was also a suspect. As for herself, since it was not her, it must be concubine Da. "This bitch." The empress couldn't wait to go to concubine Da's palace now and give her a few hard slaps to let her see her identity clearly. Your Highness, you can't be angry at this time. You have to think about it and ask carefully. You can't go to concubine Da on impulse. The empress's personal nanny knew the empress's temper. Seeing her gnashing her teeth, she knew that something bad was going to happen, so she hurriedly persuaded. Your Highness, you are also related to Prince Zhou. You can't let Prince Zhou be implicated by you. Seeing the empress was so angry that she was breathing heavily, the empress was afraid that she would talk about Prince Zhou again on impulse. Hearing this, the empress's face calmed down a little. It was indeed not the time to act rashly. She had been reprimanded by the emperor before. She couldn't annoy the emperor anymore. She was the empress of the royal palace and had a legitimate son. Concubine Da, the bitch, could never climb over her head. I can bear it. The empress gritted her teeth and said. Your Highness, I have inquired about it before. After the accident of Marquis Chen Zhen, the first person the Empress Dowager saw was Princess Chen. After that, she sent Princess Chen away as if nothing happened. Then she invited the emperor. The emperor left the Empress Dowager's palace of benevolent peace and went back to the imperial study to summon you. The Empress Dowager had just gone outside to inquire about it. It was not a secret. In just a short time, she had secretly inquired about a lot of people in the palace. There had never been a lack of people in the palace who wanted to inquire about this kind of news. Summon Princess Chen tomorrow. The empress gritted her teeth and said helplessly. It was already late at this time. It was not appropriate to let Xiao Wanru enter the palace at this time. Otherwise, she would have called Princess Chen in right now to ask about it. Your Highness, such a thing happened today. You have to find a good reason to summon her in tomorrow, right? The Empress's personal nanny suggested. There is a reason. There is a legitimate reason. She has no reason to refuse. The Empress said with hatred. At this time, she even hated Xiao Wanru. She had long disliked the Xiao sisters, not to mention now. Chapter 1087. The Empress asked me to enter the imperial palace. Xiao Wanru had just had breakfast when an acquaintance came. It was Nanny Shi. Yes, the Empress said that she hadn't seen Princess Chen for a long time. Hearing that Princess Chen was ill, the Empress was worried, so she specially asked me to invite Princess Chen and discuss something about Xiao Baolin with her. Nanny, she said with a smile. Her attitude was totally different from that of when she was in Marquis Xing's mansion. Her smile was friendly and kind. Something about Xiao Yanru. Xiao Wanru frowned secretly. She didn't want to meddle in Xiao Yanru's affairs at all. Xiao Yanru was always restless, and no one knew what she would do next. I've never meddled in Xiao Baolin's affairs. Why didn't the Empress ask second uncle to go there? Xiao Wanru asked. The last sentence of Nanny Shi's words was the key, but she didn't want to get involved in Xiao Yanru's affairs, or at the moment. Without Chu Luchen by her side, she was not powerful enough to deal with Xiao Yanru in the imperial palace. The water around Xiao Yanru was very deep. I did want to invite the elders of Marquis Xing's mansion, but there are no elders in the inner courtyard of Marquis Xing's mansion now. The only one who can be invited is Princess Chen. Princess Chen, please go ahead. The Empress is still waiting for you. Nanny, she said with a smile. Her words sounded reasonable, but her meaning was very tough. The Empress didn't ask her to come in, but only summoned her. In fact, she had to go. She had a good reason. Xiao Wanru could only nod and ask Nanny Shi to go back first. She would come later. After Nanny Shi left, Yu Jie and Chu Lu looked nervous. Yesterday, the Empress summoned her, and today, it was not a good thing. Moreover, it was related to Xiao Yanru. Xiao Baolin's affairs had nothing to do with their master. Your Highness, don't worry. I think she wants to ask me about my visit to the Empress Dowager's palace yesterday, Xiao Wanru said with her long eyelashes fluttering. Xiao Wanru said with her long eyelashes fluttering twice. Although she did not know what had happened in the imperial palace yesterday, according to the rules of the last life, the empress would definitely be reprimanded, but it was better than in the last life. At least the empress dowager was fine, and she didn't lose face in front of the officials. Plotting against the empress dowager and the emperor would definitely incur the wrath of the emperor and empress dowager. Yesterday, the palace would definitely not be peaceful, so the empress summoned her today. The shock caused by this matter was much less than in her previous life. It was only a secret turmoil in the harem. In the eyes of outsiders, it was at least peaceful. After freshening up and changing into a light blue lotus leaf dress, Xiao Wanru entered the imperial palace through the side door with Yujie. When she arrived at the empress's Fengyi palace, someone immediately reported her arrival. Nanny, she came out with a smile and said, "Princess Chen, please. The empress has been waiting for you for a long time." As he said, he stepped aside to make way for Xiao Wanru. Xiao Wanru nodded to Nanny Shi and walked into the main hall, while Yujie stood outside the main hall obediently. When she got inside and saw the empress sitting on the high seat, Xiao Wanru stepped forward and bowed. "Princess Chen, please sit down." The empress said politely and asked the palace maid to lead Xiao Wanru to sit on a brocade stool on one side. There were not only the empress in the main hall. There were 3 or 4 young and beautiful concubines, and they all looked at Xiao Wanru curiously. They all came to pay their respects to the empress. After chatting with the empress for a while, they were about to leave. They were supposed to leave, but the empress said that it was nothing important and asked them to stay together. "Princess Chen, I heard that the empress dowager was frightened yesterday, and you were involved in it. What happened? Why did the empress dowager get so angry?" The empress asked straightforwardly. Xiao Wanru raised her eyes and said with a little surprise, "Is imperial grandmother angry?" Her snow-white face was blank. The empress's eyes fell on Xiao Wanru's face. Seeing nothing, she said slowly, "Princess Chen, do you know that after you entered the imperial palace yesterday, you made a mess in it?" Xiao Wanru's face also darkened. The empress put all the blame on her without saying a word. "Your Highness, imperial grandmother just asked me a few ordinary questions, and then sent me back. She didn't say anything else, just some trivial things in Marquis Chingan's mansion. Your Highness, do you want to inquire about what I said at that time?" The empress was taking advantage of her weakness and intended to put all the blame on her. Although the big consequences in the last life were suppressed in this life, she couldn't afford the turmoil in it. Judging from the empress's appearance, she must have been reprimanded by the emperor, and this was the result after the matter was suppressed. If it were the rules in the last life, the empress would have been under supervision now. "How dare you speak to the empress like this?" And reprimanded on behalf of the empress. "Your Highness, what should I say now? Should I say what the empress dowager told me not to say?" Since Xiao Wanru's face darkened, she no longer pretended to be weak and let the empress step on her. How dare you?" No one in the hall expected that Xiao Wanru would suddenly be so tough. The who was accused blushed, but she couldn't say a word. She couldn't say that the empress's words were important and she should listen to the empress. She could ignore the empress dowager's words. "No matter how timid I am not as bold as the empress. She obviously wants to stir up discord between the 2 palaces. How can the empress dowager's words be spread casually? Everyone in the palace understands it. Even though I have stayed in the Yuhui nunnery for 3 years, I understand this rule. Why doesn't the empress dowager know this rule?" Xiao Wanru said sarcastically. Since she didn't intend to be weak, she would be strong this time. At this time, the empress didn't dare to make a big deal out of it. She hadn't cleared her name yet. If she made a big deal out of it, it would inevitably lead to a big disaster. "Princess Chen, how dare you say such nonsense? How can I stir up discord between the 2 palaces? You are slandering me." Being scolded by Xiao Wanru, the couldn't sit down anymore. She stood up and shouted angrily. She just wanted to help the empress, but she didn't expect that Princess Chen was so difficult to trample on. The rest of the S didn't say anything. Their eyes fell on Xiao Wanru and their expressions changed. When they first saw Princess Chen, everyone felt that she was gentle and graceful. Her eyes and eyebrows were soft and charming. Coupled with her exquisite facial features, she was a stunning beauty. Which of these women was not gentle enough to make people feel pity for them? It was just that there were no men present, so no one would feel pity for her. No one expected that Princess Chen and her appearance were so different from each other. Even when facing the Empress, she was so domineering. A clever looked at the Empress's face and lowered her head. Although the Empress was the master of the imperial harem and the S in the palace were all supervised by the Empress, this Princess Chen was obviously not to be trifled with. Prince Chen was also a reckless person. No one knew if she would cause any trouble when she came back. They were not the Empress. No matter how hard Prince Chen made a scene, he couldn't do anything to the Empress. The first prince suddenly quieted down. Some of the S tidied up the handkerchiefs in their hands, some tidied up their sleeves, and some played with the bracelets on their hands, as if none of them was paying attention to the matter in front of them. Your Highness, do you mean this? The Empress and the Empress Dowager will judge you. As for slander, I didn't mean you, so why do you have to drag me here with a guilty conscience? Xiao Wanru said coldly. Since she had said it, she was really not afraid of this kind of. The in front of her should be the kind who flattered the Empress. She jumped out to stand up for the Empress before the Empress did anything, but she didn't know how important she was. Princess Chen, I just want to ask what you said in the Empress Dowager's palace yesterday. Since the Empress Dowager told me not to tell it to others, you can just not say it. Why don't you take the Emperor seriously? No matter how bad she is still your elder. The Empress finally spoke in a tone full of displeasure. The reacted quickly. With a plop, she knelt in front of the Empress and cried sadly, Your Majesty, I just kindly reminded Princess Chen, but Princess Chen treated me like this. I feel ashamed to see the Emperor. After saying that, she stood up and covered her face with her long sleeves, as if she was about to hit the pillar on one side. The palace maids beside her hurriedly pulled her back. The had already cried so hard that she couldn't speak. She was pulled to the ground by several palace maids and knelt on the ground while crying. Your Highness, please help me. Princess Chen, it was just a trivial matter. I don't know why you made such a scene. How can I explain it to the Empress Dowager and the Emperor? The Empress looked at Xiao Wanru with a gloomy face and said, since it was Princess Chen who provoked it, Princess Chen should be punished. Punish? Wait. Xiao Wanru raised her voice and interrupted the Empress. Who fell to the ground, burst into tears again and waved her hands and feet as if she wanted to get up. Your Highness, I really don't know what happened. The Empress asked me what the Empress Dowager said to me yesterday. I said I couldn't say what Imperial Grandmother said, so this became embarrassed and forced me to continue to say it. Now she deliberately wanted to die. The Empress immediately felt that she was right and I was wrong, so she wanted to punish me. If I was wrong, should I say what I said to the Empress Dowager yesterday? Xiao Wanru looked at the Empress calmly. The things before and after were strung together, just like a process. The Empress asked someone to attack her, and the Empress punished her. No matter what punishment the Empress came up with, Xiao Wanru would not admit it. Otherwise, her face and Chu Liuchen's face would be trampled by the Empress. She used Prince Chen's mansion to save the Empress's face and let the Empress push the blame to Prince Chen's mansion. At this time, she couldn't retreat. Chapter 1088. Princess Chen, do you know what you mean? Seeing that no one in the hall spoke except for the who was forced to come forward, the Empress had to ask in person. Your Highness, I know what I'm talking about. I'll say the same even in front of the Empress Dowager and the Emperor. Xiao Wanru raised her head and said coldly. That pair of soft and charming eyes, when observed carefully, were full of fierceness. There was no fear in them, and they looked at the Empress without avoiding her gaze. Her identity meant that the Empress couldn't deal with her in private. In this case, she didn't have to yield to the Empress. The Empress was a paper tiger now and didn't dare to do anything to her. As expected, after hearing her words, the Empress was so angry that her face turned pale, and then she slowly retreated. Finally, strangely, her face softened. She asked someone to pull the up and let her sit aside. Princess Chen, I don't want to know what the Empress Dowager said to you. I'm just worried about the peace of the imperial harem. Since the Empress Dowager said so, I won't reprimand you. However, it's really embarrassing for you to quarrel with the. Even if you have done something wrong, you are still rude. The Empress said. She also reprimanded her, but her voice was not as harsh as before. Xiao Wanru withdrew the fierce look on her face and bowed respectfully to the Empress. She said neither humbly nor arrogantly, I thought someone was plotting against Imperial Grandmother just now, so I spoke too hastily. Please forgive me, Your Highness. She only said that she spoke too hastily, but refused to admit her mistake. Her words showed that she was defending the Empress Dowager. Even if the Empress wanted to suppress Xiao Wanru, she had no reason to do so. Her words were reasonable and precise. Your Highness, please help me. Xiao Wanru was so calm, but the panicked. She looked up at the Empress and begged while wiping her tears. She also regretted it in her heart. At the moment, she was in a dilemma. If she had known it earlier, she wouldn't have rushed out at that time. Unexpectedly, Princess Chen, who looked young and charming, had such a fierce temper. It was not enough for her to make a scene. If the emperor knew about it, something bad would happen. At this time, she didn't want to make any mistakes. The other concubines all lowered their heads. They thought that the Empress was strong and wanted to help. At this moment, they were glad that they didn't react fast enough. You can go back first. I will tell His Majesty about this, said the Empress. The concubine didn't dare to make any more noise. She held the hand of the palace maid and left while crying. Princess Chen, I will report this matter to His Majesty. The Empress said lightly. Thank you, Your Highness, for handling it impartially. Xiao Wanru bowed respectfully again. Actually, the most important thing for me to call you here today is your eldest sister's matter. I just asked casually about the Empress Dowager's matter. Because you came to the palace, many things happened in the palace yesterday. As the master of the harem, I should ask clearly, the Empress said with a serious face. He wanted to explain the battle of the two palaces that he had previously mentioned. Xiao Wanru stopped while she was ahead. She asked with a slight frown, what happened to Xiao Baolin again? Xiao Baolin is sick, very sick, the Empress said. Xiao Wanru looked up in astonishment and asked, Xiao Baolin is very sick. He has been sick for a long time. Originally, he caught a cold, but later it became more and more serious. The imperial physician also went to see him and said that he had a slim chance of survival. The Empress said in a deep voice. Did the imperial physician say so? Xiao Wanru said with a trace of deepness in her watery eyes. Was Xiao Yenru going to die of illness? She really couldn't believe it. That's what the imperial physician said. This time, he summoned you to the imperial palace to see him. If anything happens to him, he will see someone in his mansion. No one else in your Marquis Xing's mansion can enter the imperial palace at this time, the Empress said. Thank you, Your Highness. Xiao Wanru agreed. At this time, she had to agree. In front of outsiders, she and Xiao Yenru were not on good terms, but it was not the time to care about it. Xiao Yenru was about to die, but she still cared about it, which made others look down on her and think she was a little cold-blooded. Come on, take Princess Chen to see Xiao Baolin. The Empress waved her hand and said. Nanny she stood out from behind the Empress, took the task with a smile, and then left with Xiao Wanru. Seeing Xiao Wanru leave, the S immediately said goodbye. After walking out of the gate of the Fengyi Palace, they breathed a sigh of relief and secretly decided not to rely on Princess Chen when they encountered her in the future. She was not to be trifled with. Neither Prince Chen nor Princess Chen could be trifled with. After everyone left, the Empress's face darkened, and she suppressed her anger on her face. How dare a little Princess Chen disobey me? Your Highness, you don't have to be angry. Prince Chen is behind Princess Chen, so you didn't do anything rash to her. Without Prince Chen, Princess Chen is nothing. A close nanny came forward to persuade the Empress. Your Highness, don't worry. Isn't there Princess Yutao of the Su Kingdom? I heard that Princess Yutao is not only beautiful but also very heroic. Prince Chen is in poor health, so he must prefer a heroic woman. Another nanny persuaded. After hearing their words, the Empress's face softened a little. She nodded and said, I underestimated Princess Chen. I didn't expect that she dared to contradict me. She had thought that it was very easy to get information about what happened in the Empress Dowager's palace from Xiao Wanru. She didn't expect that Xiao Wanru was so difficult to deal with that she didn't know where to start and behaved in a domineering manner. With Chu Luchen behind her, the emperor really didn't dare to do anything to her. Moreover, she had just been reprimanded by the emperor yesterday. At this moment, she shouldn't cause any other trouble. But what on earth did Xiao Wanru say to the Empress Dowager yesterday that made the Empress Dowager so angry and even let the emperor reprimand her? The Empress was lost in thought, wondering where she got the information. If she knew who was behind it, she would definitely not let her go. Of course, concubine Da was the most likely culprit. Chu Luyue had been eyeing the throne, and he and Chu Liuzhou had secretly plotted against each other many times. Keep an eye on concubine Da. As soon as Prince Yu entered the palace, he asked someone to keep an eye on her. The Empress said unwillingly. She didn't believe that she wouldn't find anything if she kept an eye on her. The Empress didn't get any benefits from Xiao Wanru, so she vented all her anger on concubine Da. Although there had been someone secretly keeping an eye on concubine Da, there weren't as many as there were now. Outside the palace where concubine Da lived, people could be seen passing by from time to time. For a moment, concubine Da's residence was also in a state of panic. Xiao Wanru followed Nanny Shi for a long time before they arrived at Xiao Yanru's residence. It was a small courtyard, much smaller than Xiao Yanru's courtyard in Marquis Xing's mansion. There were only 3 simple rooms. The main room was only a little bigger than the 2 rooms beside it. As soon as she entered the door, she smelled a strong smell of medicine. A palace maid squatting in the corridor heard the sound and looked up to see Xiao Wanru. She was surprised and delighted. She hurriedly dropped the palm leaf fan in her hand and ran over to salute. Greetings, Princess Chen. It was Han Dan, the palace maid who followed Xiao Yanru. How is your master? Xiao Wanru waved her hand to indicate that she didn't need to salute and asked. Our master, our master. Han Dan's eyes turned red. She wiped her tears and couldn't even speak for a moment. Princess Chen, I'm going back to report to the Empress. Nanny Shi didn't go in. Instead, she looked at the empty and small courtyard in disgust and said. Thank you, Nanny Shi. Xiao Wanru nodded. Nanny Shi, please wait. Our master has something important to tell you. Xiao Yanru's maid, Moyan, suddenly appeared in the corridor. She was sent to the imperial palace to serve Xiao Yanru. She hadn't seen her for a long time, but she looked much thinner and gloomy. She walked to the corridor, bowed sideways to Xiao Wanru first, and then bowed to Nanny Shi. Moyan had met Nanny Shi in Marquis Xing's mansion before. Nanny Shi looked her up and down and said arrogantly, I have something to deal with at the Empress's place, so I won't see Xiao Baolin. After saying that, she turned around and was about to leave. Given Xiao Yanru's current situation, anyone who met her would be unlucky. Nanny Shi didn't think it would be good for her to go in. Nanny, please wait. This is a gift from our master. Moyan took out a small pouch from her bosom and handed it to Nanny Shi. Nanny Shi took it and pinched it. She didn't feel that it was a banknote, but something made of jade. It felt smooth, but it was easy to put in her hand. Although she didn't know what it was, she felt that it should be a very good object. Xiao Yanru was the eldest lineal daughter of Marquis Xing's mansion before she entered the imperial palace, so she had a lot of good things. It must be one of them, which was much more valuable than those banknotes. Thinking of this, Nanny Shi immediately showed a smile and said, "Since your master said so, I'll go and have a look. Your master has been ill for a long time, and it will be troublesome if she continues to be ill." "Thank you for your concern, Nanny Shi. Our master said that she feels much better and should be able to recover after taking a few more doses of medicine." Moyen breathed a sigh of relief and said with a smile on her face. Xiao Wanru turned her eyes from Nanny Shi's face to Moyen, so Xiao Yenru was not seriously ill but just ill. The Empress had called her into the imperial palace with this reason and asked her about what had happened in the Empress Dowager's palace yesterday. Xiao Yenru's matter was just an excuse. Sure enough, Xiao Yenru wouldn't die so easily. Even though she was in such a miserable state in the imperial palace, she still stirred up trouble in the dark. "Prince Chen, let's go in and have a look together." After talking to Moyen, Nanny Shi said to Xiao Wanru with a smile. Xiao Wanru nodded and walked inside. She hadn't seen Xiao Yenru for a long time, but no matter how long it was, she would never forget that there was a beautiful snake lying in the palace, and it was the most poisonous kind. No matter when it was, she had to deal with it carefully and couldn't let Xiao Yenru take advantage of her carelessly. What had happened before, even if it happened outside the imperial palace, Xiao Yenru couldn't keep her hands clean. Chapter 1089. It was a very simple room with good decoration, but it was totally different from Xiao Yenru's room in Marquis Xing's mansion that day. Fortunately, although the decoration was simple, it was clean. Turning around the screen, she saw Xiao Yenru lying on the bed. She was wearing a very simple white dress, leaning against the headboard with a white ribbon tied around her head. She looked haggard and pale, and her cherry lips were pale. It could be seen that Xiao Yenru was in a bad condition. But she inexplicably looked delicate and pitiful. Xiao Wanru stopped and looked at Xiao Yenru's face. She had seen Madame D and Madame Jiang become so thin that her bones could be seen, but she had never seen Xiao Yenru as thin as this. She was very thin, pitiful, and even pitiful. Thinking of her identity as the legitimate eldest daughter of Marquis Xing, she felt pitiful that she had fallen into such a poor position. Leaning against the wall, she looked at them with pitiful eyes. Her hair was disheveled and her clothes were simple, but they did not damage her beauty. Even Xiao Wanru felt her heart skip a beat when she saw her. Xiao Yenru was not as noble as she used to be, but looked a little more delicate and pitiful. No matter how serious the matter was, Xiao Yenru, who was in such a poor condition and had little time left, could not care less about it. "Fifth sister, Nanny Shi." Hearing the voice at the door, Xiao Yenru looked up with slightly red eyes and looked a little excited. She reached out to support herself against the headboard and tried to sit up. However, she was so weak that her body went limp. Han Dan hurriedly took 2 steps forward and held her. She helped her sit up slowly and took a few thick cushions to put behind her to make her sit up. She leaned back and said weakly, "Thank you, fifth sister and Nanny Shi, for coming to see me. Baolin, are you feeling better?" Nanny Shi looked Xiao Yenru up and down and asked. "A little better. The medicine delivered before is very good. I feel much better after taking it," Xiao Yenru said softly. Although she looked weak, her beauty was not affected. That's good, that's good," Nanny Shi said with a smile. She looked around and fixed her eyes on a few long brocade boxes on the table. There were 3 or 4 brocade boxes. The top one was half open, and a few ginseng roots could be seen. Nanny Shi's eyes lit up involuntarily. Ordinary people could not afford such good ginseng. Xiao Yenru did not seem to be able to afford this kind of ginseng at the moment, not to mention that it was obviously sent by someone. "If Xiao Baolin needs anything, Nanny Shi said politely. Her eyes fell on the brocade box of ginseng. The Empress disliked Xiao Yenru very much. Even if Xiao Yenru really begged her, she would ignore her. This time, an imperial physician came to help Xiao Yenru, and it was said that he used other means. Nanny Shi didn't care much about it at first. The so-called other means were at most for the sake of Marquis Xing's mansion, so they invited an imperial physician to help Xiao Yenru. he didn't expect to see such a good medicinal herb here. Could it be that this Xiao Baolin would have a chance to make a comeback? Nanny, she was old and shrewd. When she entered the door, she saw that Xiao Baolin looked tired but had a pitiful look. Even she couldn't help but feel her heart skip a beat. If a man saw Xiao Baolin's look, he would definitely feel sorry for him. What if the emperor saw it? Thinking of this, she immediately became more attentive. She took a stool to Xiao Yanru's bed, held Xiao Yanru's hand, and said with tears, "Why is Xiao Baolin in such poor health? He used to be such a good person, but now he is so ill." "Don't worry, Xiao Baolin. I will definitely ask the imperial physician to take good care of him and make him recover soon." "Thank you for your kind words, Nanny Shi," Xiao Yanru said with a faint blush on her pale face and lowered her head shyly. Even Nanny Shi felt pity for her and her heart trembled when she saw her. "Well, Xiao Baolin, take a rest first. I'll come to see you later." Nanny Shi stood up and said, "I won't disturb Baolin and Princess Chen now. Moyan, see Nanny Shi out for me," Xiao Yanru said softly. Moyan answered and saw Nanny Shi out. "Princess Chen, please sit down." The smile on Xiao Yanru's face faded slowly. She closed her eyes weakly, looked at Xiao Wanru, who was standing beside her, and said. Xiao Wanru sat down and looked at Xiao Yanru's face with burning eyes, but she did not say anything. "Do you feel especially relieved? Do you feel that I only have myself to blame for falling to such a state?" Xiao Yanru said with a faint look and then said with a wry smile, "I did bring this upon myself. I deserve everything, but I regret it so much." Speaking of this, Xiao Yanru's eyes turned red. She lowered her head and did not want Xiao Wanru to see the vulnerability in her eyes. Then she slowly raised her head and said, "Fifth sister, I was wrong. I was really wrong. Fifth miss, please save my master." Moyan came in and saw this scene. She knelt down in front of Xiao Wanru with a plop, wiped away her tears, and said, "My master will die if she keeps being locked here." Moyan also knelt down and said, "Princess Chen, please save my master." Xiao Wanru's eyes were extremely calm. She didn't care about the two people kneeling down and looked at Xiao Yanru. At this time, Xiao Yanru looked extremely pitiful. Her beautiful face was full of regret and hatred. She looked at Xiao Wanru with longing eyes, as if Xiao Wanru was all her hope. "Xiao Baolin, no matter whether you believe it or not, I'm here today to see your illness, and I'm under the order of Her Majesty. Now that I've seen it and Xiao Baolin is fine, I'll go back first." After saying that, Xiao Wanru stood up and turned to go out. "Fifth miss. Princess Chen." Moyan and Moyan shouted anxiously. Xiao Wanru didn't stop and continued to walk out. Yujie was stunned for a moment and hurriedly followed her. "Master, I'm going to chase after the fifth Mississippi." Moyan stood up and was about to chase after her. "Don't chase after her." Xiao Yanru snorted coldly and hid the weakness on her face. A trace of malice flashed across the bottom of her eyes. Xiao Wanru's visit today was an accident, which she didn't expect. She originally wanted to get closer to her through Xiao Wanru. Even if they couldn't get rid of the former grudges, they could at least ease their relationship. She didn't expect Xiao Wanru to react like this. "Master." Seeing Xiao Wanru disappear, Moyan stamped her feet anxiously. Xiao Wanru won't give in so easily. Xiao Yanru looked out of the room with her gloomy eyes, and there was no trace of the weakness she had sensed just now. Xiao Wanru was just an accident. Although there was such an accident in her plan, it didn't matter if there was no such accident. It didn't matter. Moreover, the accident had already happened. "Master," Xiao Wanru came out of Xiao Yanru's room and went straight in the direction of Prince Chen's mansion. Yujie led the way in front. She was excellent at recognizing the way. Although it was the first time she came here, she had been careful all the way, so she didn't get lost. The roads in this area were very remote, and there was almost no one in sight. After walking for a while, she suddenly saw a eunuch jump out of the roadside. He looked at them with an extremely kind smile and said, "Greetings, Princess Chen." The eunuch smiled and blocked the way of Xiao Wanru and her maid. "Who are you?" Yu Jie took a step forward, stopped him, and looked him up and down vigilantly. This was a eunuch that neither of them had seen before. "I'm ordered by concubine Lan to give this letter to Princess Chen." The eunuch took out a letter from his bosom and handed it over. Yu Jie said doubtfully, "You are concubine Lan's maid. What can you prove?" "I don't have anything to prove it, but Nanny Zheng, the maid of Princess Chen, used to be the chief palace maid of concubine Lan. She used to follow concubine Lan." The eunuch lowered his voice and answered with a smile, "Princess Chen, take the letter first. I'm afraid that others will see it." Before Yu Jie could speak, Xiao Wanru had already said softly, "Take it." Yu Jie took it and then hid the letter under her sleeve. "Princess Chen, concubine Lan asked you to be careful. It's not peaceful in the palace recently. If you send a gift to the Empress Dowager, just treat it as an ordinary gift. There's no need to be eye-catching. Since Prince Chen is not here, you should be more careful and don't cause unnecessary trouble for Prince Chen." Seeing Yu Jie take the letter, the eunuch breathed a sigh of relief. After saying this, he bowed to Xiao Wanru and turned to leave. "Hey, you! How could you say that?" Yu Jie was so angry that she wanted to stomp her feet. It sounded like her master was a troublemaker who specially caused trouble for Prince Chen. Xiao Wanru stopped Yu Jie, shook her head at her, and said calmly, "Let's go." "Your Highness." Yu Jie was extremely angry, but she could only continue to walk out. The rest of the way was very peaceful, and no unexpected people appeared. Instead of going to the Empress's Fengyi Palace, they took a turn in front of the Fengyi Palace to the familiar road, and then returned to Prince Chen's mansion. When they arrived at the main room, Xiao Wanru sat down. Chu Le served tea and asked worriedly, "Your Highness, did the Empress make things difficult for you when she invited you over?" "Why not? One of the S even quarreled with her master and was taken away later." Yu Jie stood outside the main hall at that time and had been very worried when she saw the go back in tears. Fortunately, the princess had been very calm after she came out, and Nanny she also seemed to curry favor with her. "It's not a big deal. The Empress just wanted to put pressure on me and make me say what the Empress Dowager told me. Now it's all right."